Welcome
Hey,
to hey, what are you doing, dude? Are you
hey, we're
ready?
live. We're live.
Are you ready for this?
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Oh, I'm so excited about tonight. All right, guys, welcome to episode 68 of the Drag Driver Pete Show. Listen, we've been talking for about the last 20 minutes before we hit this live stream with Derek Putnam and Jeremy Ortiz talking about Sick Summer. That's what we're going over tonight. That's right, we have Derek Putnam as I'm going to say like a quasi co-host slash guest. He's going to be
Yep.
talking about some of his experiences at Six Summer. He's also going to be talking with us about some of the stuff we saw at Six Summer. And then Chris Mary is going to be on after that. And Jeremy Ortiz is on after him. And those guys had the fight of their life for the week of Six Summer. Absolutely intense for the 275 street race class. Well, Mr. Eric, if you'll hit that go button, let's start that intro video and then let's get into this thing, dude.
All right, let's do it.
We're gonna pack things up and hit the road and try to make it the next day.
Well, guys, if you don't know, and you should by now, because all I ever do is talk about Drag and Drive. My name is Mike Narks. I'm the host of the Drag Driver Pete Show and the Drag Driver Pete News, which happens live on Saturday mornings. And man, we've had a crazy week. Mr. Eric
Yeah,
White, introduce yourself. Tell them what you got going on, dude.
yeah. It's been a wild week for sure. I am Eric White, the co-host of both the show and the news. I am right now pretending to be a photographer with all these photos I took from Six Summer. It's been crazy trying to go through all those, but it's so much fun. There's so many cool photos. I'm super excited to get those out. I've got one album out last night. There'll be another one coming out tonight right after the show, and then I'll sprinkle the rest in as I can get time to go through them.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Well, I'm pumped about tonight. I know I said that in the intro, but listen, it's intense, man. We are going over a ton of data tonight, and there's just a lot that happened during Six Summer, and we're going to talk about a bunch of it tonight. But there's a lot of articles that we're both writing that are coming out, and our guest is writing that's coming out. But let's jump into this, guys. We can't do this without you. We can't do this without our race car friends. You guys truly make this happen. This is really because of you guys. Hit the share button for us, please, as we come in here and let's get this thing kicked off. We can't do this without our sponsors who make all the travel possible. They make all these live streams possible and all that. So thank you so much to Summit Racing, Driven Racing Oil, Molly Motorsports, Car Chains 3D, WAF Racing, Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Power Tube TV, and Racing Junk Classifieds. Listen, can't do it without them. Please, if you're going to spend some money in the car community on your car, please hit those folks up first. We're not asking you to spend all your money with them. Just spend some of it or at least give them a chance. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Let's do the summit ad read and talk about what's going on there. And then we're probably just going to bring Derek in after that. So if he'll start getting ready in the background. Summit Racing Speed Legacy began in 1968 as a one-man startup and is now the world's speed shop with 4 facilities and 200 plus catalog editions. Fueling your passion, they save you money, deliver fast, and offer top-notch customer service for more than 1,500 brands, ours being one of them. You can buy Drag Driver Pete shirts right at summitracing.com. Make sure to download the Summit Racing mobile app right on your phone. It's right in your pocket right now, or you're watching it. For easy access to speed parts, find them on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, or find them on the On All Cylinders podcast for more automotive discussions from manufacturers and builders and everybody from building cars to racing cars. From humble origins to the social media lane, Summit Racing stands by your need for speed. You can find everything on summitracing.com. And the guys were on Hot Rod Power Tour last week, and our buddy
Yeah.
Jim Greenleaf snapped a few of these pictures here. I wanted to show them because, dude, it's the 30th running of Hot Rod Power Tour.
That is wild.
Have you ever done a power tour? At least part of it?
I have not. It's something that
What?
I've talked about doing, but I have
Yeah.
not.
Man, it's pretty intense. My dad and I went in 2012 in my old truck with a small block and a wore out small block and a turbo 350 with a 3000 saw converter. It's the greatest story ever. My dad followed me and laughed the entire time. And then my brother, dad, and myself went after I put an overdrive in the old truck, and we drove the Arkansas legs of the power tour in 2013, which was Texarkana, Little Rock, and Memphis. This is an amazing time. One of the greatest times in my automotive adult life I've ever had, and having that with my dad was really cool. So Jim said that the 30th anniversary of the Hot Rod Power Tour has been a blast. Just look at all the awesome rides this year. It's been a blast from the show and shine, autocross, drag racing, and live entertainment. I know they had a good time, but I know they didn't have as much fun as we did on Six Summer. But they're, when we had Mike Glimmy on, he was talking like 6,000 cars. Dude, can you
Yeah.
imagine? I just sounds like heartache to me. 6,000 cars, just a lot of coolant goes through cars that week.
Yeah,
A
we
lot
got a
of coolant.
question here. Any idea
Oh,
when any dates for 25 will be released? I'm not sure.
uh,
Are we talking about Power Tour or just drag and drive events?
Yeah, so currently things are generally set up. We'll talk about that in a later show, but that is a great question because like Sick Summer is typically, the second week of June. Sick Week has been this last year. They moved to the last few days of January, early February. I mean, like it's generally in that kind of time frame. And there are a few events that are actually already scheduled for 2025. But to be honest, we're so far out from 2025. People are just trying to get to their events now. That is one of the hardest things that's going. So is to set up all that stuff.
Yeah, you say we're so far out, but I mean, we are already halfway through 2024, which sounds crazy to think about.
Yeah, Andy, I will answer that. I'll make a note on that in my notes to get to that as a note on our news on Saturday morning. We'll talk about that and what we do know because we do know the Kakalaki run is set up for March of next year. We know the dates on that. It's just a matter of me digging into my notes for future and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, the bucket list mob in Tijuana. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right, well, man, let's get into this stuff because I don't want to waste any time. I want to bring Derek on. So if you will hit us with that driven ad read, we'll get down to this thing and bring him on after that.
All right. Why gamble with performance or protection when you get proven results from Driven Racing Oil? Trusted by top engine builders, winning racers, and devoted horsepower enthusiasts around the world. Driven takes legendary base oils such as the ones from Bradford, Pennsylvania, which comprise their GP1 line. Then Driven boosts that superior base with state-of-the-art additive packages. Driven's GP1 Nitro 70 not only provides anti-wear protection, but can even shield cylinders from washout and fuel dilution caused by using methanol or nitro-based fuels. Learn more about Driven Racing Oil by following them on Facebook and Instagram at Driven Racing Oil or shop now at drivenracingoil.com. And I just got to say, hanging out with those guys last week was awesome. Bill and Alex were super cool. They gave me a spot to come and hang out under the tent when I needed to get out of the sun. They had bottles of water for me. They were incredible. So I'm so glad that they were there and got to hang out with them.
Well, and just a fun bunch of dudes. I
Yeah.
don't think I drank any of their water, but I know I used that shade quite a bit, and they were at a perfect location at Byron, so you could just pop around the end of the truck and be right in the lane. So super cool.
Yep.
All right, well, let's bring him on, Mr. Derek Putnam. Let me get this off here, and we'll let you do some intro and all that kind of stuff. Kind of tell people who you are and what you did for Sick the Mag for Sick Summer.
I talked a lot.
a lot.
No, actually, the funny thing is that I've got to say this real quick, and we'll get back on track. So Tom this year has decided to allow applications to come in on who gets to drive the Sick the Magazine barbecue truck, ice cream truck, hot dog truck, whatever you want to call it. And the winner this year was Letitia Hughes with her daughter, Abby. They did it as a drive with Abby had just graduated high school. In her application, it actually said, I talk more than Derek Putnam. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's something you wouldn't want to list.
Yeah, that'd be too tough, man. I'm telling you, Luke Clevenger and I have done the math on it, and typically an announcer speaks anywhere from 130 to 170,000 words while they're on the mic per day. Per day. Like, that's pretty intense, man.
You're killing me.
Yeah, that's
I don't think it was quite that bad. I mean, there are some events where I do probably 12 to 14 hours.
Oh yeah.
And obviously the sick stuff is not that bad. So I would say we were on the mic probably 7, maybe 8 hours at most.
Yep.
But it's intense. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you and I have talked about. I've lived and breathed it, watched Hot Rod Drag Week on live stream for years. Never, ever thought that I would be involved in it, let alone announcing it. So, but also, as you mentioned, the fact that not only, do I announce this, but I also get to write lots of really cool stuff about all the participants that are in the drag and drive world, not just sick branded events. So if you have a cool story, I've said this during drivers meetings and during awards banquets, if you have a cool story, tell me, because not only can I relay that over the mic, and I feel that that's the kind of thing that people want to hear, it's also the kind of thing I can write about for Sick the Magazine. And then Luke might be able to use it in our coverage. We might be able to do something for you on a feature, all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to be able to be in this position. And obviously talking to you guys about Sick Summer, I got Drag and Drive hangover going. So we can relive what happened last week. I'm in, baby, 100%.
Yep. Well, let's dive into that, man. Let's talk about some summer recap stuff, Sick Summer recap. So obviously tracks were Byron, Cordova, Tri-State, Great Lakes Dragway. I showed up at Great Lakes, and listen, that's one of my favorite tracks. It's super cool. I love the uphill burnout. The towers, first time I've been in the tower, dude, when was that built? 1953?
The oldest continually operating drag strip. Yes, correct.
Wow.
Little interesting tidbit. One of their local crew guys showed up last year while I was walking the racetrack because I had never been there before. And I'm like, this is cool. It's got old school flavor. The fact that the return road is in front of the grandstands. The guy walks up to me and he says, hey, you're going to love our racetrack. The tower actually has glass now. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I can't imagine that thing without glass. You'd be blasted. Yeah, that was that's a great track.
The tower is great. Yeah, but it's small. You could probably put about 4 or 5 people in there, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
I was number 4 in there when I was talking to you, and that was tight.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it was awesome, and that's a great facility. I love all of the like the toy type stuff. They have all the statues around, and so anyways, I'm telling you, if you're out and about, go to that. But we spent a lot of time at Byron. Eric was obviously there. Everybody knows day 0, day 1, getting a ton of pictures, and then back on Friday for day 5. Dude, insanity! 317 cars. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the number last year? It was like, was it 280 last year?
No. So no, I actually had bad memory. So Tom actually limited the cap last year to 250.
Oh, wow.
And we were right at that mark. And then I think we had somewhere between, I want to say 220 and 225. I actually started writing a recap on all the averages and everything that we did. 225, actually. 225 is the number.
So almost 100 more cars. Yeah. Almost 100 more cars this year compared to 2023. That's insane, man. And the second year, so for us nerds on the drag driver Pete side and the world champion points and all that kind of stuff, last year set the base, and then there were a lot broken. We're going to talk about that, not tonight, because I have not had time to get to those yet, but a lot of records have been, broken and reset and all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to say.
Correct.
And the math I have, 260 cars finished.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Yep. You talk about
even more
the fact that the attrition rate was actually decently low. Like the attrition rate, I believe, was only like 18.2, which is not really that bad. I mean, like normally you see about 20 to 30%, depending on the year and the weather and how hot or how brutal the drive is. Last year, it was only 11.5%, which is pretty solid.
Crazy.
But obviously, you increase by 100, you're going to get some people at props. So.
Well, but also last year, I want to say that average of everything was like in the 11s or something like that. Like if you took everything and put it in, and it's way lower than that this year. It's got to be.
So
there were some very, very fast cars there this year.
Yeah. So this year, ironically, like if you look at the average of where you've got to get in for sick week to be in the top 100, it's traditionally in the very, very high 10s, low 9, or very high 9s, low 10s. So for the most part, I figured it was probably going to be closer to high 10s, low 11s. And this year, the number 100 spot was Mike Cole's 96 Blue Avenger. He averaged 1090. So that is the number 100 spot.
That's
not
awesome.
bad for, again, much warmer. Probably not, as Thomas said, Sick Summer, I think, draws a different clientele. You do see some crossover, but it's not the Super Bowl. It's not the everybody's going to haul butt and we're going to be in zero density altitude air or negative air like we were this year. At sick week. So that all plays into it.
Yep. Tina, yes, if you were faster than 1090 something, you were definitely in the top 100. That's pretty awesome. And I see Ryan Hargett saying, half the miles, half the attrition, maybe.
Could be.
Yeah, could be. I think
be.
The mileage was 600 and something this year. And typically sick week is 850, something like that. So
850, 900. Yeah. Tina, you're number 93 in case you're curious.
Hey, there you go. That's
go.
Awesome. Number. Well, let's run through a few favorite stories of yours, and then we're going to talk about the helmet picks and who all, and then classes and all the fun stuff that goes from there.
I'm glad people are embracing that fully. So, all right. So we talk about stories, and honestly, I almost hate doing this because there were so many good ones. That we could talk about, but I obviously picked out some specific ones that
here's how we word this, right? This is some of your favorites.
Some of them, yes. As a matter of fact, that's a perfect lead in. So one of the things that Luke got me started on this year for Sick Week was writing my top 5 wildest moments and my top 5 moments overall. Sorry, Sick Summer had so many good things from day to day that I started writing them down every day. So I am going to do a per day top 5. So that'll be coming out here shortly. You've already seen some stuff that we're trying to elaborate on as well, like obviously Rovic winning not only Pro Dial Your Own, but winning the Six of the Sick deal. If you talk to him on day 3, he figured I'm in second. I've got no chance. Obviously the weather's getting warmer. There's no way he was going to win Pro Dial Your Own. Then you see him win Six of the Sick, and it was literally like he was speechless. He had nothing to say. So anyway, so to get to the stories, first one, in my opinion, that's a feel-good story is Alan Whitaker. Got to talk about the fact that his high school car that he's owned since 17 is 72 Monte Carlo. He brought it to Sick Week this year. Unfortunately, lost piston on day number 1, decided to not carry on, so he packed it up and head home. Not only was he in the first pair out on day number 1 alongside Doug Cook, he ran his first 200-mile-an-hour blast on day 1 when he went 724. He runs his first 6-second pass on day 2, which is a 698 at 205. Then not only has to replace one piston in cylinder number 3, but oils the whole side of the car on the 3rd day and has to replace another one. But finishes, takes his 23-year-old daughter along for the ride the whole way. And it is just like I said, it's a feel-good story. I mean, Alan is probably the most happy guy that I saw in a parking lot at 2 a.m. in the morning changing a piston. You're not supposed to, but.
Yeah. And, man, listen, to go 200 miles at 200.53 on day 1, it was the first pass down the track. Everybody understand that. The first pass down the track. They had just prepped, obviously, which makes it great. But nobody else had ran before him that morning.
And it was side by side too. Both him and Doug. I want to say Doug went 726, and both of them went above 200 miles an hour. So to open, yes, I'm going to show my bias here. Open with a pair of classic muscle cars, both of them running bottom 7s over 200 miles an hour. I mean, that you could literally be asleep on your feet, and that is going to wake you up for what's coming. There is no better way, in my opinion, or very few, to start a drag and drive. That is going to get you pumped.
Yeah, it's
awesome. So that's the first story. The second story, in my opinion, to talk about is Doug Cook. Bring the fact back that this is his first time that he has competed in a drag and drive in that car. since Rocky Mountain Race Week 2021. Unfortunately, he had an accident in it. He's been out testing it. He's gotten so close to the 6s, ran a couple of 7.0s here in much, worse weather conditions than what he's been running at in Bradenton. So, I didn't think he'd run a 6. I was hoping he would. That would be great to celebrate, but it just didn't happen. Unfortunately, he lost the trans brake in the car, and then he had to foot brake it, but still one Super Street, as far as we know, reset the Super Street record, or at least got close to it with his average, because I know him and David Nick Deal were both trying to go quicker than, like, say, 740, 750, which is kind of where it sat. Both of them were aiming for it, and both of them looked good for the first 2 days. But anyway, Doug Cook bringing his car back after 2.5 years, really hard to not look at that and say that's really cool.
Yeah, to come out and take a swing like that, and to go several 7.0s. 704, 706, above 200 multiple times, like, just amazing, man. It's awesome.
Yep, and with 60 foots in the, like, 127 to 130 range. So obviously the car has a lot left in it, and it's still on leaf springs. So I think give him more time, he'll get there. I mean, he has publicly stated it's an LT style power plant. He's running something that not very many other people are, so it's going to take some time to get used to it. So that's the second one. Third one for me, I'll go for the thrash story. Bob Gruber, guy who competed on Six Summer last year with a pro-charged stick shift Mustang, had all kinds of problems. Finished the week, was happy as heck to have done it. Comes to sick week this year, runs his first 8-second pass. His crew guy, Nick, who runs the shop that basically helps put the car together for him, is ecstatic. You can tell if they make a good pass just by looking at him. You don't even need to look at him. So Gruber is, kicking butt, doing well. And then day 2, I get to Motion Raceworks. They already have the place closed. They're pretty much done. They've got like 24 people. This thing is strewn all over the friggin' parking lot like a yard sale. And I'm like, what's going on? They go, well, we think we damaged the cam. I look as they're yanking a cylinder head off of it. One of the valves is broken in half on the tip. And I'm like, okay. So they somehow thrashed for 12 hours, get it all back together, go to Tri-State, run an 880 right off the road, turn it in, and find that they have a broken rocker. The next day, he goes 856, a personal best, jumps to the top of the stick class. Then him and Dan Hart, who was leading until day 4, switch back and forth and end up like not even that far apart from each other. I think it was less than 5 or 6 thousandths or something. If I remember correctly.
Throughout the whole day, like, I mean, literally, I had my sheet of paper, which I also left on the counter inside. I was watching everybody's pass, and that was one of the classes I was watching, and had done the math. Like, Gruber needed to be quick, like he needed to have a narrower margin than 800ths to win the class. Like, that's how close it was on the last day. He had to be within 800ths, and I think he was within 600ths because it was like a 870 something to like an 876 to an 881 or something like that. Hang on.
It was close. And honestly, I think he went up and made more than one because Hart actually ran quicker than he did on the last day. And I actually just pulled it up. It was 5 thou. It was 872.7 to 873.2. So 5 thou separates number 1 from number 2. And Dan Hart was tied on the first day of stick shift, one of 2 guys to go 8.620. The other one was our friend Brian Crane with the blue 2003 model Mustang.
So
went through, I think, at least one clutch disc that week. I think he went through possibly 2, but I think he went through at least 1.
Yeah, so Dan finished, like, his pass on the last day was 875 with a 4, and Gruber's was 881 with a 1. So 5.5, 5.7.
Yeah, so he made a big jump to take the lead on day 4, 856 to an 875, and then gives almost all of it back on the final day, but hangs on. So
it was intense, man. It was really fun to watch it, and I'm glad I went up because earlier in the year I was not going to make that trip. Because Rocky Mountain starts this weekend. All the stuff that goes on at the house and all that kind of stuff. But man, I'm so glad I did.
Yeah,
I'm glad I did.
It was absolutely insane. I mean, like, again, thank you for letting me know about at Tri-State, because obviously we'll touch on the 850 thing here in a little bit. But the fourth thing, in my opinion, and again, this is a feel-good story, because as I started putting together the whole father-son, father-daughter thing, there are probably easily 24 of them that are competing in Six Summer. Now, granted, to my remembrance, Tom moved everything a week from last year, because up north, granted, I'm from Florida, so we're done with school usually by the beginning of June or very close to it. But when we went up there last year, a lot of people were like, we won't be out of school, and kids won't be out of school until this date. So if you guys delay it, then we have a chance of bringing the whole family out and watching it, or bringing the whole family and participating.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that's Tom's 100% reason for doing it, but I'm sure it probably was at least considered. So,
oh yeah, for sure. I'd hope so.
Yeah. So you probably at least saw one of their cars, but the Reimars family, they participated
one
last
of them.
year.
Shit, dude, those guys
were a whole
like
bunch.
they adopted Mike Turner, and
they did,
and then they abducted Jesse Fox.
So they made sure. So they had the Ford base and the Willie base covered. They had most of the classes covered. Let's go ahead and adopt Mike Turner, who's done a bunch of these. So you've got your Mopar friend handled. Then let's adopt as Adam Dory would call it, Silverado. So you've got that part covered too. So by the end of the weekend, they had 6 people, but 4 in their family. So last year at Six Summer, Cole, the son of Jim Reimars, but the 2 uncles, Mike and Rick, can compete in the faster cars. Mike drives the orange Cobra Jet in what this year was Pro Daluron. Last year he ran Daluron. And Rick runs the yellow 41 Willys pickup truck in the Gasser class. So I'm sitting here trying to go, did I say those all correctly? I'm like trying to remember, because I have the screen to cheat on. So last year, Cole comes out and participates in his first ever one with his purple Mustang, which I thought did the biggest burnouts for an 11-second car ever. Dude. And by, I guess, at the end of the weekend, they probably were like, okay, your tires are getting a little worn out. We got to reel those in a little bit. So then Cole's brother, Jace, who participated in a kind of rusty red 85, I want to say, LTD, got his license the day before registration.
Oh, wow.
He showed up on day 0 with a freshie and finished his first ever. He had not even, from what I was told, and hopefully I'm getting this right, he didn't drag race at all. He had never raced anything, let alone a test and tune, and shows up to friggin' Six Summer. I'm like, dude, talk about like excitement, but a whole lot of pressure.
Being and within that group, because Mike in the Mustang, like he currently holds the drag week SME record at 10.030. Like, that car's fast, and that's why he went to Pro DYO, because he was tired of started being limited by 10.0. He wanted to go up and do more. So that was kind of cool. And like to have that as your uncle, I mean, come on, dude. That's awesome.
No, it was. So those are probably, I would say, the 4 stories that we would talk about. Now, you and I discussed some story ideas, and I'll throw something out to lead into that. The Daluron and Pro Daluron, they have traditionally been where you get some people that really do understand, like, hey, I'm just not going to go out there and make a pass. I'm going to go out there and make several hits and get something that I can turn in. Well, I knew looking at the weather that somebody who planned ahead, or at least had the thought to plan ahead, was going to have to come into it unless it was just a freak occurrence. We went from 500 feet above sea level. We were, 51 degrees on Monday morning. That's insane. I mean, I loved it, but I knew it was going to be gone in 2 days. Well, when you go from 400 or 500 feet above sea level at Byron to 3,700 feet at Tri-State. Tri-State was 2,600 feet above sea level at midnight when I went to sleep. I was like, your car's going to move. Unless you've got nitrous or you turn it up or something, it's going to move. So, like, Rovic went from being a thou apart in his to being almost 200ths apart in his by the time he got to Tri-State, because he just kept running it and he couldn't get any closer. So he's like, I'm in second. I've got no chance, blah, blah, blah. So I started paying attention to it, and I was like, okay, are these freak or people figuring it out? So the weather was interesting to watch, not only Daluron and Pro Daluron, but also watch the lead changes in some of the classes that you and I will talk about, as far as how people made adjustments, who obviously still had some left in reserves, who didn't.
Yeah, and who could turn it up? Who could turn it down? You know, the down
Correct.
is probably a good thing some mornings. Well, let's talk about this orange helmet deal because I love it. I think it's a great idea. It's really, really cool, and it's something that I feel like is usable, which is a huge win. But it's
Yep.
also something that like has become this huge badge of honor. So I grabbed some pictures from the winners of the guys because one of the biggest things is to take these helmets and do regular stuff with them, right? Like
Yes.
things that you're not supposed to be doing in a helmet and do that. So we've got Bob Gruber on the left here taking a call from work, I'm assuming, right? He's working hard. And
Yeah,
then
it's amazing how the sound goes through those helmets. I mean, just
yeah, you know, I'm sure it doesn't. This is all for act here, you know, gotta be.
Yeah.
'Cause we know he's not working. He's looking at race car parts. And then the other side is Brian Acton and Jay Blanchard on their way home, and they're just cruising down the road. Can you imagine pulling up next to these dudes? You're just driving along. You look over in this truck that's got this big old trailer in the back. And it's two dudes wearing orange helmets.
Yeah.
I'm in. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah,
there's
go
some
ahead.
good ones here too. I mean, like there's some that I was like, okay, you know, when I don't know if, and I wrote about this. I don't know if he's the first guy to ever do it, but Richard Guido was the first guy that I ever saw put them out there. Like I said, I don't know if somebody did it before him or not, but he was doing them like you said, regular everyday life. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, let's not let these sit on a shelf and collect dust, guys and gals. Come on, let's use them. And
let's enjoy them.
Yeah, and I said that during the awards ceremony, and sadly, be careful what you wish for. Some guy actually posted a photo within an hour of him in the urinal, actually with the helmet on.
Nice. That's awesome. Yep. So I just ran through and grabbed just a few of these. These are one per winner that I saw. But Raj here on the left side of the screen, you know, driving his car probably back to the pits, I would think, or back to his trailer or back to home. Who knows with that dude? He may be driving that thing to the house in Canada. And then Tim Blythe on the right side of this eating sushi in that deal. Like,
I think the only reason he's wearing it is because you can actually see it. If he was in the Triumph, I don't think you'd see it. It's so small.
Yeah, right. Yep, that's exactly right. And then Ken Cuttle Jr., who won the NA Big Block, he's working there on the right, or on the left, doing his normal deal. And then Blaine, our buddy Blaine Sark, on the right side there, editing videos. He's not wearing it, editing the video, I think, you know, because seeing all the stuff. So I love this. I think it's a lot of fun seeing the creativity that everybody has.
Yeah, I will give Blaine a pass because I appreciate quality video, and I think the X and the O might make it where you might miss something. And
you're having.
But yeah, we'll give him a pass. But the other guys made it work.
Trackside Media said, "I unfortunately witnessed the bathroom ordeal."
What do you mean? Unfortunately, you were in the presence of greatness. He was the first one. Unless somebody did it at the award ceremony, which I think people did. I think Blaine actually put his on immediately.
Yeah.
But all right, so we talked about the helmets.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Yeah, let's get into some classes. Because this is where my nerdiness kind of comes out and it's a lot of fun to deal with. So we want to talk about 275. Let's just start out with the tightest class in all of them for the weekend or for the week was 275 street race. This class 0.00008 average difference between number one and number two.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that again for people that are listening on the podcast. 0.0008 average difference.
Yeah.
It can't get any closer, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe it will one day. I don't know. That's pretty dang close. Why don't you tell us what the inch difference is on that?
So if you were plotting it over a race, like you were actually going to show what 8/10 thousandths of a second difference is, it's 2.2 inches. Now that's on a race.
Yeah.
And as you and I talked about a little bit before the show, I think it would be interesting, especially considering how much everything jumped around in that class, because I actually mapped it out per day, how much it moved. If you look at the difference in between first, second, and even third and fourth on some days, if you look at how much difference that was, where you would go from, say, oh, it's 2 or 3 feet. Okay, well, now it's down to 19 inches. Okay, now it's down to 12 inches. Holy crap, like it's getting close, whatever. But yeah, it is interesting to look at it as far as an actual measurement beyond time. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You're within your fingers don't get that small. Most likely,
Right.
it's spread that across 5 days, 4 different tracks, 5 days, 5 completely different weather conditions. This class, y'all know, I love it. I love the 850 classes. I love them to death. That's my jam. This just cements that. What's really cool is both guys, Chris, Mary, and Jeremy Ortiz, these two dudes right here, both ran perfect passes during the week on the same freaking day, dude. How does that even happen? How's that happen?
So before we get away from it, the 0.0008 margin, not the first time it's happened either. It happened because he popped in. I have to say it. It happened at Sick Week 2023, where Willie Luan, for his second helmet, won the Street Race 275 class over Jordan Boudreau by that exact same margin.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if there's been one closer than that, but that's pretty freaking amazing to consider that it's happened not once, but twice in a little over a 1.5-year span.
Hang on just 1 second. And I'm only going to do this for 1 second. We talked about having helmets earlier.
Hey, Chris Mary's wearing it. It's awesome. I love it. He's fully embracing helmet challenge. I like it.
Yes,
Sweet.
yes, that's pretty cool. All right.
So let's get back on the 850 thing. And this is, I could say, nerding out because, as you mentioned, the whole data thing. So I will personally apologize because I leaned on you. We talked about it beforehand. So we thought it was the 8th and the 9th. It's not. It was the 9th and the 10th. So still a really small amount, but here's something screwy to wrap your head around. So according to what Michael Narks and I have found out, the first time that the 850 happened in a class that limited it was a 2019 Hot Rod Drag Week, where it happened in the same class within 2 days, and neither person won. That's even screwier. So it was, who was it? I have it written down here. Rick Steinke and Jim Braun. Jim Braun's only drag and drive appearance as a driver or a competitor. So then Dustin Trance did it 3 years later. And then for whatever reason, and I'm going to assume that it's because of the weather probably more than anything else, Sick Week is responsible for four of the next 7. But then ironically, Tim Flanders goes perfect 850 at Tri-State last year, which was day 4, not day 3, but still. And then this year we come back and we get not 1, but 2 people that again run 850 perfect at Tri-State. And I damn near lost my mind on the first one. And then the fact that Mary comes up and does it after Jeremy does it is like, am I even seeing this correctly? Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
And then you reminded me that it happened twice at Sick Week this year, but not on the same day. This is the first time that it has ever happened on the same day. The other times, which have been 2, there was at least a day between the 2.
Yeah. Pretty intense, man, to think that's why those guys are on tonight. Like Chris and Jeremy are both on tonight after Derek, because of to have those conversations. Like, how do you do that? How do you run perfect, but how do you continue to stay mentally sharp to run that all week? So we're going to have to kind of blast through some stuff or we're going to be over.
Right.
So it was obviously a dogfight from day 1 in that class. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we bring those guys on later. So I don't want to dig into that too much right now, but the class was won by Chris Mary. And then second was Jeremy, and literally 0.0008 in the difference.
Right.
Craziness, man. Craziness. Let's move to 6 Street Race because that's another 850 class. And I just want to get your take. Why are there 2? Is it because they wanted to like a tire limitation and 6 Street Race follows like drag week rules?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, looking at the difference between the fact that Hot Rod has 4 different classes and then we have 2, but if you look at the rules, there's some suspension differences. Mm-hmm. One does not allow aftermarket wings and so forth. So I think that there is something to be said about the fact that they each bring their own unique challenge. I mean, could you combine them? Sure, but I have to wonder if it would be for the better or not. You know, like there's times where you look at Hot Rod Drag Week and you go, there's 4 of them. They've got Street Race, then power out or naturally aspirated, small block or big block. If you tried to even narrow them into 2, I have to wonder, would you get everybody to come back to them, or would they say, nah, because you don't have something separate, I'm not going to do it. So
yep,
it does bring in
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to Cameron Alley. Dude took second place, led all week. Shears the teeth off of the ring gear.
Yeah, just literally.
It gets pushed out of the lanes. I had to look at my phone to get these numbers. Had pushed out of the lanes at 2:22 p.m. Returns to the burnout box at 4:25 p.m. Fixed it in 2 hours and was back making passes. And his pass when he came back was his 8:65.
No, actually, the 8:65 was the number he ran first.
Yeah.
Then
he ran.
Then strips the ring gear. Knows he probably has to turn it up in order to be able to get back to where he needs to. If I remember correctly, either went 44 or 45.
Yep.
Then on the 4th and unfortunately final pass for him, he goes 8.498.
Yeah.
And looks like he grenades the engine, which unfortunately happened last year, which is why his 8.55 is what he turned in. Yep. Thankfully, I found out. Thank you, Alan. I couldn't remember if it was 8.44 or 8.45. Thankfully, I heard that the blower belt came off the car and snagged the tranny line, so that's why we saw so much white smoke. So thankfully, no motor explosion. But by the time he got it cleaned up in the shutdown area and got back to the pits, we had already closed the lanes because we were running late anyway. So yeah, it's got to suck getting kicked in the teeth, finishing second for the second straight year, especially like you said, after leading all week. Yeah. And Acton was nowhere close on day 1 or day 2, and then they started chipping away at it, and they finally got there. So the fact that Acton, who, in my opinion, on day 0 looked like the guy to beat, considering he went 850 with a 1 and then an 851 pass. So I figured, okay, he's got it all tuned in. He's coming off of a win at Drop the Hammer. He already won Sick Week this year. This is your possible, guy that's going to just repeat.
Oh, yeah. Well, and for Brian Acton and Jay, they said that they found a wire that had been crimped incorrectly or something somewhere in there, and they found that Wednesday night, and you can see their performance was back on track on Thursday, Friday with 51s.
There you go.
Then so that is 4 for 4 for Brian Acton this year.
Yes,
and he's been it's crazy. Sick Week, the circuit, they won the 850 class there, dropped the hammer, 545 class, and now 6 summer. I mean, these dudes are they're on it big time. And I want to give a big shout out to TJ Linebaugh, who was tied for first going into day 4 with what my math looks like an 8.519.667. Like it goes all the way out. They were tied. Pretty crazy.
TJ and Brian ran each other, I want to say, at Great Lakes. It was either Great Lakes or Tri-State. They ran each other, I want to say, 4 times. They literally paired with each other 4 separate times. And I'm like, okay. And, at some tracks, because the speakers work better than others, which is why I think it's a Great Lakes, you could see Jay, kind of talk to me, give me thumbs up, are we going to come back? Are we not? Yeah. Oh, I remember, I think it was at Great Lakes where they went 851-1 right out of the gate. Like you said, the performance was back. Most people would figure, turn it in, get on the road, get out of there. Nope. They kept sitting there and hammering away at it. And I'm like, okay. So,
One cool stat I did see is that Brian and Jay ran the quickest of the class both Thursday and Friday. So they turned in the best passes those days. So again, that's why this class is my favorite, but also that's why Drag and Drive is so important on building a reliable car that can last the week. And nothing against Cameron, because dude, his car lasted all week. It was his to lose 100%. But you go into the last few days and dude, Shears a ring gear. How do you plan for that? You can't even plan for that. So pretty crazy, but I thought it was really wild that TJ and Cameron were tied for first going into day 4. Just intense, man.
Which puts Brian in third, which is wild to come in and then end up taking it. But at Byron, they were just sitting there waiting to see. I mean, they were watching each other. I remember going by and he's like, well, they're not done yet. So I think it was day 1. They were waiting to see. And it was just wild. They were going back and forth. Brian and TJ were pitted together. So again, like you said, once their class got called, typically they went up together. And and paired with each other. And Cameron's a local guy to me. He lives probably about 5 minutes from my house to his house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I see this car around town all the time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he's updated the signage on the side of it. Like the fact that car used to be green and then they wrapped it orange and then they had 6 summer 2023 stickers on it. Now they have 24 stickers on it. He says it's still orange, but it's slightly dirty sick orange is what he told me. And then of course I'm a Nova guy anyway. So Acton's car, I mean, that car obviously has proven itself over the last couple of years. He's got that thing pretty sorted. He made some changes to it, I want to say, right after Sick Week last year that obviously helped it out a little bit because, like you said, he's I mean, as good as we sit here and talk about certain people like even Brian Goldstone, who won his second race or won his second event of the year, defended 6 summer from last year. Acton's on fire, dude. 4 event wins in 1 year, and we're just getting into the middle point.
Well, and here's the biggest part of winning a limited class like that is that you can't go as fast as the car can go. Like Goldstone can lay it out. It doesn't matter. He's just metal, pedal to the metal the whole way, all on the floor. Doesn't matter. But those guys are looking like, at 873 feet. Oh man, I need to lift 10%. So I don't go too fast, All right, let's go to Pro DYO. We're running out of time here.
Yep, we got to get on it.
Sorry, I knew having you on would be hard for me. So Pro DYO, all cars completed the event. How cool is that?
Cool.
That's
crazy.
Awesome. Yeah. The top 4 cars. And Pro DYO is based on your spread from your slowest to your fastest pass. The top 4 cars were separated by 0.019. Crazy, right? 8 of the 9 cars had better than 0.5 spread or less. Okay. The 7 of the 9 cars had a spread of like 0.19 or 0.196 or less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, 0.196 or less. So to be competitive in that class, you have to be within less than 2/10 total spread. 4 racetracks, 5 days.
And again, the weather shift, again, it begs to be said, the weather shift of almost 3,000 plus density altitude, which depending on how fast your car is an easy 10th and a half, if not more. I mean, that's a lot.
Wild. So. Yep. Dan Dinan ran the quickest pass of the class at a 9.201. So quick as well. They're not slow. And then Raj Rovic from the Yukon wins the class and the sickest of the sick trophy. I love that. I think he has earned that 100% for sure. Love that dude. He's amazing. So congratulations to him. And we saw his picture with the helmet earlier. He won by a margin of 0.004. Right? Yeah. 0.004. His spread was 0.044 to Eric in the white GTO to 0.048. Crazy.
Yeah, that's close.
I probably lost somebody with all the 4s there, but listen, it was really tight. It was really tight.
Yeah, 4,000s, and the fact that Rovek on the first 2 days turned in time slips 1,000th apart, 1,000th, and then by day 3 it was like 200s. But anyway, also the guy that we are going to have to make a note on this at some point still claims to have the most runs in a single day. He made 26 at Death Week last year. And the thing was still running what it should have been running, but I'm sure that Oldsmobile was begging for mercy. Anyway.
So to give people an example of how many runs that is, Brian Acton and Jay Blanchard made 30 runs all week.
Yeah.
They made 30 runs all week.
And not only that, he goes to Rock Falls and lays out a 60-second long burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he went through 3 pairs of tires, if I'm not mistaken. I think by the end of the week, we were calling him the guy that turns shredded tires into slicks.
That's exactly right.
Yes, and that bears a mention. Let me throw that out there real quick. I wrote a story about the fact that he won Sickest of the Sick. His quote, without even me pressing, why are you constantly out there mopping and taking care of other people? And he said, if I can make somebody's experience just a little bit better, I will do it. He goes, if I don't line them up and they're in the wrong spot on the racetrack because they don't know what they're doing or whatever, and they spin, they're going to roll down the racetrack slowly. Everybody else is going to go slower. they're going to have to come back around. He goes, if I can help somebody else, why wouldn't I do it? It makes for a better overall experience.
Yep.
I mean, again, the guy who doesn't think he deserves sickest of the sick, I guarantee you, if you talk to him, he would say that, but very well deserving of it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. DYO class, crazy tight on that one as well. Bunch of passes made by DYO racers. Class count 112 started the event, 96 finished. That's a huge win for that class. That's gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people were in Bullseye? I didn't look that up.
The Bullseye class actually had a decent number. It was, if you count the ones that did not finish, we had a total of 28 cars in Bullseye.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a bunch, and that's really cool for that class as well to see that kind of growth that quick. So Greg Jones and Jonathan Sonecipher, who were on the Drag Driver Pete show before we went to Sick Summer, were fighting to stay in second. I mean, literally pass after pass after pass trying to get there. Slipped to 8th on day 5. They were number 2 going into day 5, slipped to 8th after, listen to this, they ran in 11.861, turned in 11.861 on Friday because that was their best pass. Their spread before that, 11.904 to 11.914.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, the air, especially as you get slower, affects the car more. So the number 2 finisher, Amber Matz, who lives in my hometown in Gainesville, Florida, same thing. She's a bracket racer, ran junior dragster, so it was the same thing. She's paying attention to what she's turning in. And after making 4 or 5 runs on the 3rd day, they're like, well, our average is going to go up or our spread is going to go up. But they ended up hanging on. So,
I think she was 1st and then 3rd. And I haven't done all the math on that class. I did a few things, but the top 18 cars in that class were less than a 10th.
Correct.
18 cars had less than a 10th spread across 5 days of racing, 4 different tracks. The top 32 cars were within 2/10.
Yeah. And again, I think just again, pulling back a little, if you look at Sick Summer last year, the idea of how close that racing is, and again, the weather shift is huge. If you compare that to the previous year where the weather was very consistent from day 1 all the way to the final day, on the final set, it was even closer than that. It was .021, .021, and .019. Those are your top 3. So even closer. And like I said, you throw the weather aspect out of it, it's still pretty solid, but I'm sure that had something to do with it.
Right. And I just wanted folks to understand, like, that class is, you are ET limited to 10.0. There were a few people that went 10.0 numbers. The fastest pass of the class, 10.010. Slowest pass of the class was the almost 31 second of the Impala on day 5. But all week, I think he had ran like mid-20s, right? So you can bring anything to this class and have fun.
Yeah, our slowest guy from previous year, the last year, I forget what he was driving, but it was a Camaro. And he said that he had saved up all his money to come out and run it and what have you, and just have a good time and what have you. Wyatt Schultz, that's his name. Yep. I knew it was on the tip of my tongue. He actually came back this year and the car's a little bit quicker. So, but he still competed. So that was cool.
He has swapped the Camaro, the V6 3rd gen Camaro, for the big maroon wagon that came out. They call Rosie.
That's it. Rosie. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Winner of DYO is Daniel Balk. Awesome, great looking car, great guy. I talked to him for about 12 seconds in the lanes as he was getting ready to make a pass. His spread, again, 0.13 across 5 days. Absolutely intense. Quickest pass, or I think slowest pass of the week was on day 3. So he knew what he had to do. And that's what I think is cool about DYO is the window you have to keep in. So if your day 1 is low, 12.886, and your day 3 is 12.899, you've got to be between that to hold your spread down. So it makes it easier.
Yeah, the great thing that I love about this is, that El Camino right there is something that, in my opinion, is very attainable, like you've talked about before, to a lot of people. And you do not, it proves that you can come out and have a shot of winning something or even placing top 10 without spending a ton of cash to get in and do it.
Yep. Yeah. This is a simple 6-liter LS and I think a turbo 400 trans. Just, I mean, this is a car that most folks could put together that are watching this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. Pretty amazing. Moving on to, Unlimited, which I didn't grab a photo of Tim Blythe. We talked about him earlier in the Triumph Spitfire. Sorry about that, Tim. I apologize. We are doing a write-up on him about this, but he rolled to the beams, pushed to the beams, started the car up, broke the beams, took his 20, would have taken his 20, because he pulled it under power, goes back to the pits, and when his wife came up, it was basically like I don't even know what he did anymore. They rewired half the car, is what she said, to get in there. Now, I know they were struggling at Great Lakes. They had a lot of people there trying to give them wiring advice. They had a crank sensor situation. They essentially rewired in a factory crank sensor to make it work and drive, but he wasn't going to be able to make a pass. So he had to wire in the go fast button to get there, and then go to drive it. Had this whole other wiring thing together. So then they get to day 5 and have to do the same thing. It was crazy, man. It's crazy. I love it.
Yeah, that car's come a long way since he debuted it back at Sick Week 2022. I mean, it was running 11s, and he's already run 770s with it.
Yeah, and like when he came out in 22, that car was pretty wild, and it was factory front suspension, factory front Triumph Spitfire suspension and brakes. It is not that anymore. Lengthened it like 8 or 10 inches. It's basically a pro mod under that body. And his goal is 6s, man. Crazy.
I have no doubt he'll get there, and doing it with an overdrive transmission too. I believe it's a 4L80E. I believe is what he has in it.
Yep. And you guys can watch that on Blythe Life, BLYTHE Life Racing, Blythe Life Racing. Great channel, great folks, great couple. Love them. I hope all the success in the world to them people. They're amazing. So let's talk about Rowdy Radial as we get into the last bit here. I did not grab a picture of Nathan McMasters, but most of my notes are about him because he led all week. So Nathan McMasters, Matt Arwood, and Blaine Stark went at it all week long in Rowdy Radial 235 class. This race was fun to watch, in my opinion. I think this was a lot of fun. Those cars either spun or going down at that kind of power level on a 235 in the 8th mile is got to be a tuner's game, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you consider the fact that the track temperature at a lot of these places, once we got into Wednesday, was north of 125 to 130 degrees. So that's touchy already. And then when you look at how small that 26 8.5 tire is, but it was good. Like you said, the top 3 up until the final day was very close.
Yep. So Nathan led all week. Biggest lead was 0.058 after day 2. That was the biggest lead of the week. Can you imagine being that tight on an all-out class? Not ET limited, can't turn in something, all that kind of stuff. Nathan's best pass of the week came on Thursday, 5:06 with a 4, and then his slowest pass of the week was on Friday with a 5:35 that he submitted anyways. Now, these are submitted times I'm talking about here. So walk us through what happened on Friday, because I didn't get to see a lot of his passes. What do you think was the struggle with getting to the 5:35 after running 5.0s most of the week?
Honestly, I think that it was, from my recollection, the ET limit of what you can turn in, because we're looking at quarter-mile clocks. So that's part of it. I do know that Blaine couldn't turn in a couple of them. I can't remember, for certain which one, but I do know that at one point, the fact that, again, the class just kept raising and how close it was, because McMaster and Blaine Stark just separated themselves. And they ran that 5:06 you talked about McMaster running. Blaine ran 5:10 right next to him. And then came back and ran 5:09. So the gap got even tighter for the final day. And they wanted to win so badly that they actually called Precision and actually ordered a bigger turbo for that car and swapped it, I believe, on Wednesday night. So that was part of it. But after not making it out of day 1, because the Gen 2 Coyote finally gave up the ghost after a lot of abuse, according to Doug Cook. For a 16-year-old kid, after attending drag and drives since 2019, to be able to come back, handle that car, pedal it when he needed to, drive it right, and be able to win his first title at age 16.
Yeah.
You almost need to take a step back and just let that soak in for a second. That is a truly remarkable feat.
Well, and to be involved at the level that they are is awesome, because it's not that, he just shows up. Like he's building his own car. He works and wrenches with his dad on his dad's car, which is a stick shift car, which makes it even harder. And he's been doing it since 2019. I mean, think about that. A kid's like 11 or 12 years old when they started this.
Yeah, I don't want to expand on it because I know we've talked about the time limitation and everything. But the one thing that I said to Tom Stark, because I grew up going with my dad to watch when there were no juniors, is I said, I watched your son pull you into the beams up until this year. Now roles reversed. And you can see that even though I'm sure he thought about it, he literally stopped and couldn't say anything for probably a good 5 to 10 seconds. He goes, yeah, it's really hard. It's great. But at the same time, to watch it come full circle. And not only was Blaine doing it, but his sister, Mac Stark, was also driving her Mustang, and she completed the week.
Which had a hard time too. They're going to be on in a couple weeks to talk about the struggle they had, because Mac's car blew the blower up on day one. They had to reroute the all new not hose, but belt, all the stuff that comes along with that. And then, now you got a car set up for a blower that's not getting any boost. I mean, crazy stuff there. So real quick, and then we'll sadly have to let you go to get these other guys in time. But Blaine bolts up the new turbo, goes from 520s to 509 on day 4, and then they just let it all hang out on day 5. Runs the best of a 491 with a 5.
Yep, they turned it up. Unfortunately, the Legend of El Toro bit them on the 4th day, and they flipped the trailer. That's happened to Doug Cook 3 times, and they brought a trailer 2 days before they jumped out there, and they flipped it on the 4th day. So that continues. So, but guys, I know you got more important people to talk to as far as people that actually did something on the racetrack. So. Well,
hey, so before you go, tell everybody where they can follow you, because that's important. We got to keep up with our Derek Putnam. So social media, and then the next event you're at, and then what you're writing about next.
So I am working on the top 100 averages, also all the quickest single-digit runs and all that kind of stuff. That's going to come out this week. I've got some for the adventure story that we're going to have every Thursday. As you've probably talked to Adam Dory about a little bit, he does a column for us, or a piece for us now every week on Sick Week, or most weeks. So he's doing stuff. What I am doing next is an NMCA and MRA event in July, where we will do a 6 shootout at US 131 Motorsports Park.
Sweet.
And you can find me at Derek Putnam. I'm the only guy with a green Nova in the background on Facebook, at least as far as I know. And you can also find me on Instagram. I post there every now and then at The Real Derek Putnam.
Sweet. Hey, thank you so much for coming on tonight, dude. I really appreciate it. And I know we could go a couple of hours. This was literally hard to stop making notes for the Derek Putnam time here on the Drag Driver P Show. Again, guys, make sure you go and follow Derek everywhere, and make sure you follow Sick the Mag, because this dude's a big part of that. So we got to support them. So, all right, dude, thank you very much, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was good seeing both of you at Byron, and look forward to our next one. We got Rocky Mountain Race Week coming right down the pike.
Bring it on, bud. Bring it on.
See you, man.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, guys, let's jump into real quick. I want to talk about the Molly Copilot Spotlight, and then we're going to bring in our guests for tonight. All right, let me do this real quick. Sorry. I'm getting there. I promise. Stay with me.
I'm going to go ahead and read that while you're getting that going.
Hit it.
All right. Attention, high performance enthusiasts and racers. Meet the Molly Motorsports Power Pack Kit, your ultimate solution for power packed performance. The Power Pack pistons are made from either 4032 aluminum alloy to allow for tighter cylinder to wall clearances and improved temperature stability, or 2618 alloy to allow for increased detonation resistance. Tailored for various engine families from small block Chevy to Volkswagen and Audi, Molly has you covered. What sets them apart? It's forged pistons, graphol coating, and phosphate treatment for peak performance and durability. Elevate your ride with Molly Motorsports, where performance meets precision. Unleash the power within. Visit mollymotorsports.com for more details. And for all you podcast listeners, Molly is spelled Mahle.
All right. I know that's right. Okay. So this week's co-pilot spotlight comes from Anthony Latimer, who submitted it a few weeks ago, and he actually shared a social media post made by his wife, Jamie, after they attended an event earlier this year. So it's a few tips that she talked about in this, and I only grabbed a few. I'll put the whole post on dragdriverpete.com/, co-pilot spotlight. But the road trips are a lot more fun with 300 other racers and road weekers, and that there is more to life when you take the back roads. I felt like I was on the Amazing Race. I thought that was a pretty funny comment from her. Thought that was good because that is what it feels like sometimes. You're kind of on this race in the back, and everybody knows the Amazing Race from a few years ago. And then she says, standing around being bored all day is not an option. There's undeniable excitement and energy radiating through each track as people made their best times or had a rough pass, but were determined to make improvements. And then she says, if you drive miles without seeing other racers, reread the directions. Been through that a lot. And then she said, buying a new wardrobe of racing shirts is a must. So I thought that was really cool of her to put that together. That's one of about 18 different tips and I'm going to say thoughts that she had that she put into a post. And again, I'll put that on the dragdriverpete.com/Molly Copilot or Copilot Spotlight. And guys, if you want to submit your own Copilot Spotlight, please do. We would love to see that. Again, dragdriverpete.com/Copilot Spotlight gives us an opportunity to feature the person that rides with you. You know, the person that's going to be out here on the road with you. And I know we've got a lot of stories from Six Summer. I know we've got a lot of stories from Drop the Hammer and the circuit and Sick Week as this year goes along. So thanks again to Molly for being on board. We appreciate them a whole bunch this year. And guys, we can't do this without you.
Yep, I just dropped that link in the chat too for anybody that's
Awesome.
watching or listening. Hit that link, go fill that out so that we can tell your story on here as well.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you all so much for being our race car friends, for being here. Thank you for helping us push and get through all of the stuff that happens with all of this here. Thank you to our sponsors, Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports, Driven Racing Oil, Car Change 3D, WAF Racing, Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Power Tube TV, and Racing Junk Classifieds. Awesome. Can't do all that stuff without them. And listen, finally, the gentleman's agreement. You know how this works. We work our bouteilles off over here at Drag Driver Pete. All we're asking is for you to give us a little bit of that back and hit that follow or subscribe button. If you haven't done it yet, please do that while you're watching this here. And PowerTube TV has given us an opportunity to share the Drag and Drive community with automotive enthusiasts, I'll say is probably the best way to word that. So if you haven't downloaded that app, please go do that. It's really a great way. You can do it on your smartphone. You can do it on your smart TV, which is the way I've done it in my house. And it essentially has all of the old fun programming like Pink's All Out, Pink's Pastime, all that kind of stuff, but also a ton of content creators like us are on there putting out our stuff everywhere. So I love it because it gives us a chance to show so many more people about the Drag and Drive community. And I know we have a lot of people that are entering the Drag and Drive community from watching it over there, just based on what the team at PowerTube TV is telling us of the amount of people that are watching over there. So it's awesome.
Yep.
All righty. WAF Racing, our newest sponsor that has come on board. The hashtag Keep Carbs Alive was something we started back when him and Jonathan Stonecipher were on. You know, these guys are carburetor fans. They also like EFI stuff, but really when they start, their engineering brains kind of start getting kicked in and going fast, right? They start to come up with different tools like we saw on Sick Week when he had the carb tool that you basically put over the top of the carburetor, hold your spark plugs, hold your screwdriver and your jets and all that kind of stuff. Now Chris is developing, Chris and the team over there are developing this screwdriver carburetor kit. I don't even know what this is. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know, but look at all the
Looks
stuff.
pretty cool.
It's got a small screwdriver. It's got a big screwdriver. It's got a Phillips. It's got a flathead. It's got what looks like some kind of magnet deal. I don't even know what that little orange thing there in the middle is, but the whole purpose of this is something that's easy that can fit in your glove box or in like a small side pocket of your Drag and Drive car. Because these guys aren't just engineers; they're also huge hot rodders. That's Chris's Firebird in the back, the Nashville Hot Chicken, and then they were on Hot Rod Power Tour, or they would have been at Six Summer with us. I mean, they're that committed to doing all this kind of fun stuff. And WAF Racing is a division of an engineering firm, and those guys, man, I'm telling you, it's like their fun time. So if you have a chance,
Yeah.
wafracing.com or wafracing23 on Instagram, and WAF Racing on Facebook. Go follow them as well. Kind of fun. And he'll be on next week is the goal for them to be on, tell some stories from Power Tour and Sick Week and all that kind of stuff. All righty. The Howard's Camps community segment. This is when we get into our guests for the evening. And so, again, we have Jeremy Ortiz on, who was second place in Street Race 275, and Chris Mary, who won that class, is on tonight. Chris Mary is going to be first. Jeremy is going to be second. So we're going to do the video here that Harris from Monoxide recorded for us, and then we're going to get right into some conversations with these guys.
Yep, here we go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Harris from the Monoxide Podcast. Real quick, Howard's Cams was founded as a racing cam manufacturer almost 80 years ago when Howard Johansson created Howard's Power and Racing Equipment in 1945. Howard's Cams has always used on-track experience to design the most powerful designs, and today they have an even greater group of experienced racers in circle track, drag racing, road race, mud bog, and marine. They use all this input plus the most advanced computer software to design the most competitive race-winning products. From pioneers in drag racing and oval track to cutting-edge marine development, Howard's Cams is at the forefront of the industry. So make sure to reach out to our friend Luke B for your next valve train upgrade.
All right, I want to talk about two things before we bring Chris on. The first thing is Street Weekend UK, bro. Dude drove with no windshield. We had a guy driving with no back glass. This dude drove with no windshield until they could get to the till they get a spot, and then racers helped him put it in.
That's awesome.
He went to like a safe light or something. They all helped him put it in. I thought that was a really fun story, and we look to have more of those stories this Saturday morning on the news, which is live on our YouTube and Facebook channels, because Ken White of Dragon Drive Life UK Facebook group and Tim Bagley, who both guys participated in this event, are both going to be on the news to talk about all of the stuff that went on over there for that. That's why we're not really diving into this week.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yep. And then Bryant Goldstone heads to Rocky Mountain Race Week this weekend, coming right off of Six Summer, literally 6 days worth of break there before they load the cart back up and go down to experience their first Rocky Mountain Race Week. And I'm telling you right now, I'm following along till Wednesday. I cannot wait to hear his thoughts on the evening racing. It'll be completely different for him to experience. He's only ever done the morning style racing of Drag Week and Sick events. So this is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Jeremy, I was almost done hearing about the back window. Yeah, hey, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Sorry, bud. It's a cool story. All right, that's my that's a little bit of community updates. We will go into some more things on the news on Saturday morning, and then again next week we'll have a lot more stuff because we haven't even talked about the other things in the room, which are the other events that have happened since then. So
I've been busy.
Yeah, I'd like to bring Chris on right now and let him introduce himself, and then let's get into talking about, dude, how do you win by such a small? Well, let me run through this real quick. Sorry, 275 street race. They're both on tonight, right? We went through that. Matt Frederick led on day one with an 8.504, and day two 8.503, giving him an 8.5035 average. Wednesday he submitted an 8.589 to Dean Anderson's 8.541, moving Dean into first place after running 8.536 and an 8.509. Okay, so now we have that. That's one flip flop. Day three was the two perfect passes by Chris and Jeremy. Those passes, coupled with the best two passes of the class, day four, netted Chris the lead by 0.00175 over Jeremy. Second place, he held over Dean by 0.002 average, who was in front of Matt by 0.002. So you literally have four cars that are separated by zeros.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. So Dean was ahead of Matt by 0.002 going into day five. The top four racers were separated by 4 thousandths of a second. average going into day 5. It's
That's
crazy.
wild.
Yeah, so everybody had crazy runs all day. Jeremy and Chris made tons and tons of runs, and then Jeremy and Chris ran heads up, trying to help kind of cement the class win and get the folks a show. But sadly, Jeremy's phone. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And at the end of the day, Chris's average would lead Jeremy's by 0.0008 seconds, which we talked earlier in the episode is like minuscule inches over 5 days. So I tried to look it up again. We talked earlier with Derek about how one other class at Sick Week was separated by 0.008. I intend to dig deeper through all of the historical stuff to see if there's any class win that is that close. I can't think of any that would have been that close at all in any of the historical stuff I've looked at. So pretty amazing to have done it then. So, all right, Chris, we're going to bring you on now, sir, and we're going to have you tell fun stories about how your week went, dude. But first, you got to introduce yourself. You got to tell us who you are and all that kind of stuff.
Hey, I'm Chris Mary from Battle Creek, Michigan, which is like 30 minutes from where pretty much the Deal Brothers headquarters is, Auto Dynamics.
Nice.
So that's pretty much me. What else would you like to know?
Yeah, dude, you were in the Mustang. So tell us about the car and then how you end up in the driver's seat of this thing, because you're building the G8. How do you end up in this?
Well, from my understanding all week, I was under the impression that it was a built bottom end 4.8 with trick flow heads, and I was under the impression it had a billet 85 on it. I got so Nick actually said it's an 88 102 from Bullseye, so I didn't know that. So I was telling everybody it was an 85. Obviously, it's wrong, but back in 23. I was trying to get the G8 done for Drag Week. I had signed up, was already entered, and it was getting closer and closer, and things kind of got put on the back burner between like side work, and the wife and I were trying to buy a house. So spending kind of got slowed down on it, and I had always joked with Nick and was like, hey, we're just going to take the blue car. It's pretty much ready to go, blah, blah, blah. Well, like Nick never really gave me an answer right away. So like 3 weeks prior to Drag Week, he goes, so you taking the car? At this point, I didn't have a co-pilot. Everybody that I had asked, it was just too short a notice.
Yeah.
And so I don't think me being in the blue car would ever happened if I had already made passes my own car that were 8-second capable. Because to put someone from like a 10-second into an 8 seconds it doesn't seem far, but it's pretty big.
I would think that would be a huge difference.
Just because the car reacts totally different. I mean, you're going from a 10-second that goes 1.6, 1.8, 60 foot to a consistent 1.2, 1.3, 60 foot.
Wow.
So Drag Week came around, and I had my buddy Travis, he's got the blown Big Box Malibu wagon that was at Drag Week pulling wheelies and stuff.
Yeah.
He had a buddy that was going to come to co-pilot, and the person that was coming didn't have his car ready. So pretty much I met my co-pilot for the first time down at Drag Week in 23. And
nice.
So
that's great.
We hit it off. We finished third at Drag Week in the street race class. And so he was like, if you ever do another drag and drive event, like, please let me know. I'd be down. So as soon as I was getting ready to sign up for Sixth Summer, I was like, hey, you interested? He said, yep, I'll be right there. So the only downfall is like he lives we're 2 hours apart here in Michigan. And so so it's hard for him to get down to help out with the car and stuff like that. So the plan this year for Sixth Summer was to get my car ready. Well, things started getting closer and closer to where back in the beginning of the year, we ended up buying a house. Well, because of that whole process, it kind of get put on the back burners. So this year, Nick and Dave were trying to get the orange car fixed up and ready for six summer. So my car pretty much got put on the back burner, which I was okay with. Like I was like, we had a plan to have the blue car just in case. We had a backup plan, which I call it the rental because it's the car's just consistent all the way around. So we pretty much got both cars ready, and the week prior or 2 weeks prior to week prior to six summer, we went out testing. Well, we had fixed the trans, fixed a couple of other issues, and I go out for my first test hit, and the car it makes I think it went like an 860, and I get off the gas, like slow down, and as soon as I got off the track, the car went up in flames.
Oh,
and like for someone in that situation to happen for the first time, I was kind of like proud of myself because that's a scenario you run through your head like every single time you get in the car. Like, what do I do if like something like that happens? So, and the thing is that was the first time I put a GoPro in a car. Like, so when that happened, I was like, oh, perfect timing, right? And so watching back, I think I got out of the car like it took me 5 or 6 seconds to get out of the car, which is like
you can ask Eric. My question is always, did you get that?
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong.
Yep. So so it kind of like when that happens, you're like, man, like six summer's a week away. And like we had originally planned on doing Streetcar Takeover, which was at Martin that weekend. So I pretty much like was not down in the dumps because Nick Deal wouldn't let me be that type of person, only because he's like, hey, what can we do to fix it type thing. Yep. So that Sunday I like took the car to the shop, got it torn down, kind of assessed the damage, and I was like, you know what, I have this running here in the next couple days. So I already had prior commitments. So like Saturday I was busy, Monday I was busy, Sunday night I was busy. So I had Sunday and Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the morning, I had everything fixed and the car started and running on its own. Nice. And then Wednesday we had it all, like all the body panels and all that stuff put on. And then Thursday we put a windshield in it. And then Friday we went racing at Streetcar Takeover. So that was the thrash for that. And like Nick and Dave, like, yeah, they helped out here and there, but they had their own car getting ready. They were having issues with belts and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a thrash. Everyone thrashed to get this car done or these cars done prior to six summer. And so
that's intense, man.
Yeah, it was like, I'm thankful for my wife because she held the fort down while I was gone the whole time, because I was like, I need to get this done. So, which lucky enough, we were able to go to Streetcar Takeover. And the original plan was to just dial the car in at 850. Like, because the turbo had changed, we had changed intercoolers. So we had changed some stuff to where like it was totally different from where we were at Hot Rod Drag Week, because at Hot Rod Drag Week, we had a smaller turbo, not as efficient intercooler. And then we were also a turbo 400 back in Drag Week. So we had went to Streetcar Takeover, like, okay, we need to dial in at 850. That's the plan or whatever. Well, by our second or third qualifier, we were like, I told Nick, I said, we'll just run it to the eighth. We know what we got to run to the eighth order to be somewhere around 850. Well, I think Friday night said, screw it, we're just running out the back. Well, we ran out the back and it went 828, 165 mile an hour. And we're like, how do we slow this car down enough to be able to get it to 850s? And so that qualified me second in Street Racer Mild. So we're like, well, we can't really work on 850s right now because we're trying to win some money to go to six summer with. So we had to pay for hotels and stuff. So that was that weekend. And then my co-pilot Adam Rose came down that weekend. So we had a kind of like reset of, okay, what can we do to get the car to like street trim to race trim like that weekend. So so it was cool to leave Streetcar Takeover with Dave ended up winning first in Wild, and then I took second place in Mild. So it was a cool.
That's awesome.
cool to have that going into six summer. But we went into six summer still not prepared in the 850 class because, we've done a whole bunch of testing for Bullseye. So like we were leaning on the car. So the fastest I've been in the car was like 506 to the eighth, which is pretty quick for what the little 4.8 can do. And so we had went into testing on Sunday for day 0, six summer. And we went a first pass down the track and went at 8:47. I was like, all right, sweet. We got something to work with. Well, after thrashing and everything, Nick thought it'd be a good idea to look over the vacuum lines on the car. And so he's looking it over. He's like, oh, this is wrong or whatever. Well, he didn't tell me what side it was wrong on. And so he goes, I got it fixed. I said, okay. So we went up for our second pass and it went at 8:16 at almost 170 mile an hour.
Wow.
And we're like, what are we doing wrong? Well, we get back and I'm like, Nick, I don't think that would fix the issue. And he goes, well, the driver's side was the vacuum lines were switched. I was like, Nick, I never touched that. Like everything on the fire was on the passenger side. And I'm pretty thorough. Like, okay, I don't remove this line until I have a new line ready to go on. And so he goes, Dave, go look at it. So he had Dave go look at it. Dave's like, yeah, that's wrong. It should be the other way.
Oh my gosh.
So we luckily we had the 8:47 pass to kind of go off from where we were at. And so that was like not having an 850, like something close to 847 was close, but to run that class and be competitive in it, like you got to have a tune-up that goes 850 with something, no matter what. And before that week, we never went at 850 with anything on that car. So that's how pretty much we started the week off. And
that sounds pretty tough. Go up and go 816, trying to go 850 something. You're like,
wrong way.
This thing feels like it's going really fast. I don't know. Wait a minute, man. I gotta get a baseline.
Yep.
So kind of walk us through the week then, and those first couple days as you make some passes, and then day 3 you hit the perfect 850, and then on to day 4 and 5.
So Monday we started off with I think we went up there, made a pass, and it went like a 856. And with that car, like if it got really hot out, it was consistent 856 car. Like no matter what we did, didn't matter how hot, but it ran a little cooler. When it was cooled off and stuff, you'd go a little quicker. So we ended up going. I think I turned in at 854 on day 1, which is not a bad pass for the class, but you still want to be at 850 something. Or 851, right. And then day,
just so everybody knows, like day 1, the number 1 car in the class 8504. So
right,
you're off by 400s, which is a lot at this in class. Yeah, but you're third after day 1.
Yep. So after we went and turned in 854, we got the car turned around, made the drive to Cordova. And on the drive, the car would have a little it lose all communication. So we thought maybe a power wire or whatever was the issue. So we had went into Cordova. The car would run, but as soon as it got right at the 1,000-foot mark, it lose it hit boost cut or something. Like it was every time it got to 1,000-foot, it'd lose boost cut. It hit boost cut or wig out or whatever. We'd lose O2 or something. Wow. And so day 2, we had to turn it into 856 with a 6. And so we were kind of man, yeah, exactly. Like you had 2 other guys that were going 850s or going low 850s. And at that point, you're like, all right, we just need to figure out what's going on and move on from there. So we had
sorry, real quick, because this is pretty crazy. Day 2, Matt Frederick again goes 8503, and Jeremy goes 8503. 809 for the 3rd place. So you go from 850s for the top 3. Now you're 856 turning it in. Fourth fastest pass, but but still, at
Yeah.
that point, way off the number.
Exactly. We're like,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? Type thing. And so we load up, head to the next track, still have that issue or whatever. Get to the track to Tri-State and start looking the car over. Well, come to find out, the one problem we had was the main power to the alternator was the ring terminal was broke, but it didn't look broke. Like it was just sitting there. Like, I don't know if you hit a bump, it'd jump off and come back on. And so looking at the logs Nick was looking at, it looks like we were dropping voltage on the big end. So I get that wire fixed. We go up to make a pass, and right before right at 1,000 foot, it lose power. And so it went at like an 856 again. And so I get back and like, all right, like we tear the dash out of this car. We tear like the sail, like we took all the body panels pretty much out of the car to like trace all the wiring and everything in this car to figure out what exactly was going on.
Wow.
So we like come to find out the main ground for the ECU and stuff was on, but the bolt wasn't fully tight. So
no kidding.
We're like wiggling it. We wiggling everything out, had everything plugged, make sure pins and all that stuff. So we found it. And so next thing you know, like we tighten that up, get everything put back together. And we go up to make a pass. And that's when it went 850 with an O.
Right after that,
like, right after that, it was like, and like you could see in some of the videos, like that's the excitement stuff of like after like tracing everything down to be able to find that was the issue, and then go up and make that pass. It was just like it gives goosebumps like to me and like Nick and all of them, because it was like sweet, like we got something figured out. We're back in this thing, and because after going into day 3, Jeremy and I were tied. Because he'd went at like an 860 something on Monday, and then went back to back 850s. And so going in day 3, we were tied, same, like we had the same average and everything. So when he went at 850 with an O, it was like, man, like I was happy for him, but I was like, yeah, we got to do something to be able to like stay close or whatever to stay in this. And so when I saw that time tick, I was like excitement went over, like, yeah, we're still in this thing type thing.
Yeah. So you guys leave day 2, both averaging 8,554. Okay. You go day 3, you both leave 8,536.
Yeah. I think we go into day 4 lead. I led by, I think mile an hour wise or what. No.
Yeah.
Going to day 4. I think
we'd have to run it out, but yeah.
Yeah. I think we were still tied going into day 4. Which right then and there we were in striking distance. Like you go from 855 average, and the number 1 is an 850 average, and then going into day 4, you're like right back in the into it.
Yep.
And the biggest thing I understood or I took from drag week was like you have to be prepared. Like you have to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Get to the track as early as you can, get the car switched over. So when they call you to lanes, like you have to be able to make 2-3 passes in that first round of like AB radial, because if you don't, you're behind the ball.
Yeah.
Like, because like, just like who I watched at Hot Rod Drag Week was, I think his name Dustin Trance. Like drag week, he was 2-3 passes, had the 850, and then he was out. Like he was on the road ready to go the next day. And like see him do that, like to be competitive in these classes, you have to do that. Like you have to be able to, granted, 1, you got to hot lap your car as much as possible to run that number. And 2, you have to be ready to go when they call your lanes up, because no one else, like it was like, as soon as they saw AB radial, you saw 40, 50 cars, what's the best word? Like it was like a traffic jam pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Getting into the lanes. And that was,
I wonder I'll have to look up and see how many AB radial cars we had, because man, there was a lot. There was way more AB radial than I think there were AB slick.
Yeah, I believe so.
Steve Trans here. Our secret is out.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean get in, get it done early and go home? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get on the road to the next track.
That's awesome. So kind of walk us through the emotions in the pits. You get back, those guys had probably been up there on the line and seen you run that. You get back to the pits, like the stands I would think would have already been jazzed because Jeremy's ran a perfect pass. Now, how far behind his pass is your pass?
I think it was like within an hour or two. I think
Wow.
the difference. And
Jordan Boudreau saying first there and last to leave to be competitive in 850s. Yeah.
Yep, I agree with you.
Because you got to wait it out. You got to see if the other person goes fast, especially
right.
like in your case, because you and Jeremy are tied for 2 days in a row.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, Jeremy and I have been like Facebook friends. Like, we've been to a couple events, but we never really talked. And so, like, the beginning of the week, like, I introduced myself and we started like, we talked every day, like, hey, how's your car going or whatever. Wow. So, like, that's the great. Last, like you see in some of the videos, like, me and Jeremy are parked across from each other at Tri-State. So, like, when I had run my 850 pass, like, they're congratulating us, but like in turn, we were congratulating them because the race was still on type thing. So when we went into Great Lakes, him and I were like talking about like throughout the day, trying to figure out, okay, what's the red Camaro doing or what's the gray Malibu doing? Because we were like, we kind of like, I know the 850 class is like a tight group. Like any drag and drive, everybody's willing to help each other out as long as to make everybody finish the week. But like, we kind of felt like the young guns and so we're like, all right, what do you need to do what do we need to do to leapfrog the other two pretty much? And so when we were at Great Lakes, like we were like, okay, I had ran like a 855 with a 9. He had ran like a 856 with a 6 or something. And yeah, we probably would have went up there and made another pass to guys over, but we're like, I think we're both leapfrog them after today going into day 5. What's the point of beating up our cars right now and have something stupid happen to them? How about we just make the drive to Cordova or Byron and have a slugfest out there.
Yeah.
Because going into day 5, we were all still pretty close to each other.
Oh yeah.
And
it was tight.
I even went up to Dean. I was like, man, it's awesome that you guys were able to fix the trans and still make it. Like, to see him go through what he did to still be in the competition is awesome. Like, that's what drag and drive is. And to have people like come out of nowhere and say, hey, I got a shop here, bring it over and let's get it fixed so you can still be in this competition. So that's one cool thing. And a lot of people know that about drag and drive is like, people are willing to come out of the woodworks to help you out to make sure you survive the week. So we had, like I said, we went into day 5, like, all right, we know where we're at. And pretty much had a slugfest on Friday.
That's right.
That's the truth.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome to watch that.
And I know, so day 5, I had my first pass, I won a 52 with a 5. So kind of the rest of the day was like, okay, like, yeah, I'm still going to run my car to get closer, but I'm also going to obviously keep an eye on everyone else. And I think everybody else was having traction issues majority of the day until like, I think the second run AB radial. And then I think Jeremy went at 852 with a 2. So as soon as he went like that, like I was, next thing you know, I'm figuring out on my phone what the average is. Like, am I still in the lead? Am I not in the lead? Like, what's going on? What do I need to run? Right. Because when you're competitive like that, your stress and anxiety like goes through the roof. Like, okay, what do I like? How can I stay ahead? Pretty much. Yeah, you want to see your friends and stuff still do good, but you still want to win.
Yeah. What do you got to do to get there? Yeah.
So it was stressful, but it was also exciting. Like
that's awesome.
We were able to go into day 5 and do everything we could to stay in first. And so when I went that 52 with a 5, I sat back, kind of see what everybody was doing. And then Jeremy won an 852 2. And I believe Dean and can't remember. I remember his last name, Frederick. Matt. They were having Matt was having issues getting his car to hook on the line, and Dean was pretty much hot lapping his to be able to run a number. And so I know my second pass, it went at 56. And then we let it cool off and we went back up and it went a 48 with a 0. And it was like, it would have been awesome to run another 50 something. Because then I wouldn't have been like, towards the end of the day, it wouldn't have been stressed out. I would have sat back and been able to relax a little bit. So Jeremy and I were like, I went to him and he was like, how about we just run heads up? Like, because at that point, it was like, I kind of want to sit back a little farther and see what he runs so we can make adjustments if need be to run a little faster. And Jeremy was like, how about we just run heads up? Like, don't play games like that. Just get in the lanes, line up against each other. Yep. And Dean, I think Matt had loaded up because he was a Whipple. So it was really hot that day. His car was struggling. And Dean was still hot lapping that thing. And so,
so for everybody to know, Matt turned in last day. He turned in a 14,883.
Yeah,
because they couldn't get that car to leave. I've got a ton of videos on my phone of that car just leaving and blowing the tires off.
Well, I'm fortunate enough that the blue Mustang can pretty much go down anything. Like that car, even at drag week, never once spun. Always consistent 128, 130, 131s, somewhere around there. That 525 pass, it finally chattered the grass or the track wasn't as nice as it was Monday, but it was hot, greasy and stuff. And on my 525 pass, it chattered the tires and still went a 135.
Yeah.
And it went a 52 with a 5. So, I mean, like I said, the car just, it works. I mean, Nick and Dave, they no prep that car and have won events and no prep stuff with it. So when someone says, hey, what lane you want? I don't really care because I trust the car enough to where like any lane is fine by me. So when we had saw Jeremy and I were sitting back, Dean was running his car, and I think his last pass he went like an 847 before the lanes were closed. We were all in it. He went a 47. Jeremy and I looked at each other. All right, sweet. We have a chance to take one or two. And so I told Jeremy was like, well, what lane you? I don't care. I said, whatever lane you want, I'm fine with. I'll go in the other lane because I had confidence in the car to be able to make a pass no matter what. So we unfortunately his car spun because I was really hoping, like, I was excited for the race part. Like, it like even maybe broke out both of us or whatever. Like, you're still a competitor. You're still like you're friends until you get to that line, pretty much. And so I had I let go of the trans brake, and I was pretty much like looking to see where he was at, and I saw that he had issues, and like I got out of it right then and there. I knew I had won the class, and I get back, and Nick, being the person he is, he was like, "Well, why'd you get out of it?" Well, I didn't want to repack the chute because we had to load up and go to, like, we were leaving. Like, we already had to do a bunch of packing. The one last thing I wanted to do was pack the chute.
Yeah.
So
I can
that
imagine.
was the cool part. So that's what I liked about it.
That's pretty awesome. Well, listen, I want to say thank you for coming on and telling the story. Give a shout out to your co-pilot again, who he is and all the good stuff he did this week.
His name's Adam Rose. He did phenomenal. Like, I pretty much, he'd made my job so easy that all I had to do was drive the car pretty much. Like, we got there. Awesome. What I do at the track is like, all these tracks were new to me. So the first thing I do is I go check the track out, see how far the shutdown is, see where the cones are at and all that stuff. And literally by the time I get back done doing that, he had the car, the rear end of the, like, because he focused on the rear end of the stuff. So he had the shock set or the springs set up, the the race tires on it and stuff. By the time I even came back, to where all I had to do when I got back was pull the cone off and put the engine diaper on, pretty much.
That's
so
awesome.
we were ready within, like, I think from street to track mode, we were ready in like 45 minutes. And we didn't even we didn't have a trailer on so everything was packed inside the car.
Ugh.
So,
Dude,
which was
no way.
which was another cool thing, was we got fat or quickest without a trailer.
Yep.
But like I told Nick, Dave, and Adam, I was like, this is the last time we're getting this trophy, because I don't want to unpack the car every time we get to the track.
Yep.
So
it's very difficult.
My co-pilot did awesome. Like I said, he made racing the car so much easier. And getting the car down the track and stuff. And then even when we were done, we had the car packed up. When you're racing all day and it's hot, miserable, the last thing you want to do is get the car turned around to get on the street, on the road. We were pretty much, we averaged around 45 to an hour of getting the car packed up, ready to go to the next track. So I have nothing but praise for him. I'm glad Travis got us linked up, because pretty much we're trying to get my car ready for drag week. And he was like, well, I'll build a trailer and get a trailer ready to go. So when we do go to drag week, we don't have to rush around like we did before.
Yep.
So,
that's
and then
awesome.
Also shout out to the Deal brothers. Obviously they have confidence in me to be able to wheel the car. Even like the fastest pass, like since they've owned that car, the fastest pass that car's ever went was at 8:16 at day 0. Like,
wow.
So to have confidence in me to be able to wheel it, because they know, like, I'm the type of person to where, like, you live another day. So, like, if their car was to ever get squirrely or whatever, I'm out of it. Like, I'm not trying to wreck someone's car. I'm not trying to wreck someone else. And that's why I think they have confidence in me to be able to do that, to where now it's like Nick and Dave are like, well, you pretty much got to drive the car if we do something, because it takes less stress. It takes stress off Nick, because Nick's drove the blue car and tune the orange car in the same event. And so it can be a little stressful trying to worry about 2 cars at the same time. So it kind of takes stress. It's not as stressful for him if I get in the car and race it. Cause I know driving the car, you still got to be able to, like, hey, Nick, if the car's doing this at 1,000 foot or whatever, and he can look at the log and communicate. So it makes life easy for all of us. If I was to drive the blue car and Nick tunes it and Dave drives the orange car. So super grateful for those two to be able to allow me to wheel it. They're in the process of trying to sell the car, but obviously I got to fix some fire damage, true flames that are on the car right now. A little charred up.
Nice. Well, man, Thank you so much for coming on. We've got to cut you a little short here. I want to jump on. I want to get Chris on.
Fine.
Or I want to get Jeremy on. Dude, I appreciate you spending the time with us. I appreciate the conversations we had as we walked through the pits. Anytime we were there, you were always you welcomed us into the pits. You told stories. You gave us all the stuff we could possibly need. So thank you for that. Appreciate that a bunch.
Yep. It was a privilege, guys. You guys have a good one.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Awesome, man. I'm telling you, that car is one of my favorites of the event. I love the color. I love the story. I love the whole process of getting those guys going that fast. And just, can you imagine borrowing somebody's 850 car and then you go 850 in it, dude?
No.
I think that would be a proud moment if you were the Deal brothers. You'd be like, yes, we built that, and somebody else drove it, and they went 850 in a car we built, and boom, especially after the thrash they had.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what he mentioned they were talking about selling it. I'd be curious to know what that price tag would look like for somebody that wants to get into 850, because that car clearly can go 8500. So
oh yeah, for sure. And Eric White needs a good 850 car.
Hey. Michael Narks better pay a little better if I'm going to do that.
You mean pay it all? Yeah. All right, let's bring on Jeremy because this is a car that Eric has followed for a long time, and I followed it too. I mean, let's be honest. This is another one of my favorite cars. Let's pull up a picture here real quick, and then we're gonna kind of do the same thing with you, man. We're gonna have you kind of walk through the week, go through all the stuff. Nick Deal says 55 would buy the Mustang, so that seems pretty inexpensive to me for a car that can lay down that kind of ET.
All right, Mike. When's that check coming then?
Yeah, I can give you 550. Does that about cover that? Mr. Jeremy, introduce yourself. Tell everybody where they can follow and see all the videos that you've been editing for your time at Six Summer.
For sure. So Jeremy Ortiz, I pilot the Purple 240, known as Hybrid, if you will. My social media, Team Hybrid Racing. Last year, really about this time last year, I started to dive into the YouTube stuff. And I think I've put out, I don't know, 50 videos since then, which is crazy to think about. Yeah. And editing right now the Six Summer recap, which I'm trying to make it into a bit of a story. So anyone who wasn't there gets to feel like they have been there. I popped a trailer out yesterday that kind of gives a little bit of sneak peek of that. So look for that this week. It'll probably be a two-parter because the attention span of people these days is pretty short.
Well, and listen, an hour-long video is hard to edit too.
Yeah. So hopefully they'll both be about 20-25 minutes. So look for that for sure.
That's
yeah. So
yeah, walk us through the car, man. Tell us what the story is, all the kind of stuff. Who's your
for sure? Yeah. So let's see. I've had the car since 2011. I bought it as soon as I graduated college. I wanted something rear-wheel drive. I had a couple Eagle Talons, the DSM world, and bought it. Drove it stock for a year. I put some wheels on it, and then decided, hey, let's see what this LS stuff is about. It was starting to become something people were doing. So swapped it in my little apartment garage 12, 13 years ago. And it's just slowly progressed from a cam 6-speed to a turbo to an auto to what it is now. And you can, like the shirt says, you can call it whatever you want. But it is what it is. I'm sure you guys saw that picture. Kyle was all about the shirt. So yeah, it's right now in its current iteration, it's a aluminum Gen 453 with top to bottom Brian Tooley racing parts. You open up their catalog and just check, and that's what it is. And It's powered by a Force Performance 84 millimeter turbo that we put on there this year. And it's it's an off the shelf combo. We changed a few things over the winter, trying to just really make it ready for this. I ran this last year. Was my first time ever doing a drag and drive, was Six Summer. And those of you that may know, we finished second, but I put a giant hole in the block on the last day. And kind of a similar story to Chris's is I had a local series race that next Saturday. So I got home and my wife and I pulled the motor out on Sunday, and we put a stock block motor that I had in it and went racing the next Saturday local. Shocked everybody. I didn't tell anybody we were coming. They thought we were out. And I think we made it to the finals. I didn't want to push too hard on that motor. It had been in my car for 2 years before. So it had some miles on it, but we still had fun with that. And then BTR really helped me out. And we got that new motor that's been rocking since last year. We did Nostalgia Nights. Eric was there to check that out. We took home overall and small block power at her. Wrong side back here. But yeah, so made some changes and we went and did a bunch of testing, trying to just figure out where the car was, because everything was not everything was new, but we had some new stuff. And we came into it with a couple different tunes that we wanted to play with. And so day zero, we're like, let's see what it'll do. And it went like 8501. And so my co-pilot Justin, he came with me last year. We did the Nostalgia Nights. We've done a few other things. I do a lot of streetcar takeover stuff in the past. So he really knows the ins and outs of the car. And so we put that in there and hit that 501. We said, okay, maybe we know what we're doing here. So we made a second pass and purposefully slowed the car down just because we wanted a window. But we also knew that this was going to be the best weather we were going to have. So it was going to be a lot harder going into the week for sure. So then, so day one comes around, and the weather was actually even nicer, I think, in the morning. And we popped off like a 860 and came right back around. Like Chris said, Chris did a good job kind of really telling how it works. We learned a lot the first year about how this class works. And that was really helpful and knowledgeable. And so unfortunately we didn't go any faster on our second hit. And so we had to wait for the next, then C group goes, D group. We had to wait around again. And unfortunately, this car used to never spin either. We didn't spin one time last year, but we've changed some stuff and we're still trying to figure it out. And unfortunately I spun. And so I brought it back to the pits because I said, this car doesn't ever spin. Something must be wrong. Let's look at it. And I'm literally like in the car about to belt up and they close the lanes. So we had to turn in the 860. And
that's tough.
I mean, we knew going in that it was going to be a lot tighter class, like no question about it. Right. So having to turn in an 860 on Monday, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, look, anything can happen, but let's just finish the week. Let's enjoy our time here. Let's finish the week and see where we can go.
Here's what's crazy about that. And like, dude, we're literally talking about a tenth off of a ET limited class. And you're like, well, hey, listen, let's finish the week, see if there's some attrition, see if we can get faster. Y'all, he's in fourth place with an 8605. Like,
yeah.
Dude,
and so, I mean,
crazy.
We watched all the time close too. Just, I mean, if you're in this class, you got to know what everybody's doing. So, at the end of the day, we looked at it. We knew that our 60 was off. So we had room to move. But you kind of look who's ahead, get an idea of what those cars are. And you got to look behind you too, because anybody else could have an off day too.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, it's not just the four of us. There's other cars here for sure. And then we get to Cordova, and I think first pass was like a 56.5. Come back to the pits, look it over, play with the tune a little bit, and then it goes 503. So we're like, okay, we're back in this. So like Chris, Chris says day two, him and I are tied. We have the exact same ET at the end of day two, which is crazy. And at this time, I went and talked to Matt. That Camaro is, I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's probably one of the best cars there.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's
beautiful. And the Whipple, like, man, just you pop the hood on that car, everything is perfect. Like you look at the paint is great, the interior is great. That car is a show winning car, and like he's out here busting off 850s. Jerk.
Yeah. So at that point,
8503, you're like,
03 and 04. I'm like, all right, well. So at this point, we had a good pass. We're kind of back into it. So Juddy and I are like, well, maybe let's just keep going, and maybe we can, maybe we can get on the podium, right? And also, I'd like to mention the truck that was with them, the brown truck. Also, absolutely gorgeous. Like this is a car show going on here. So then we go. Let's see. We end up at Tri-State, and we make our first pass. Obviously, the weather had gotten significantly warmer. We're tracking the DA and all that stuff because you have to. You turn into a bracket race. You're looking at all this stuff. I've learned a lot. So I think we went like a 59. Come back, make the adjustment, and go make the pass. And I'll let it out the bag because some people already know. But I clicked into third gear and I looked down and I'm thinking to myself, this car is going really, really fast. So somewhere between, call it 1150 feet in the finish line, I'm slowly coming out of the gas, and it runs a perfect 500. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, but I've made, I don't know how many passes in this car, but you just know like when it's going fast. And it's not like we were super far off. We'd gone 501, we'd gone 503. So I knew, but I just felt that it was too fast. And I think I trapped like 165 or something. So clearly it was, going too fast. And so obviously Chris did the same thing like 2 hours later. Like he said, happy for him. But at the same time, I was like, dang it, this was our opportunity to really get up there. But we did flip flop mile an hour because that 165 bumped it up. And, until they started going out 4 or 5 decimal places, the mile an hour was the breaker. So I was like, okay, we've got a leg up here. And I think it was after Tri-State that the weather got really hot. And the only thing I really dealt with all week long was my transmission would start to get warm. Until that sun started going down, transmission started getting warm. I didn't have a single issue with it last year. I don't know exactly. We changed the converter a little bit, so maybe we were riding a little higher on the RPM or something going down the street. Also, I fixed my trailer. We moved the axle back, so it was a lot. Last year, it was like we got to 55, and it was just wagging all over the place. We could do 60, 65, so we were also driving a lot faster, so I'm sure that had some to do with it.
Yeah.
Anyways, we end up, kind of also, like other people have said, if you're in that class, you're there all day. You were like the first people in there, were first people to leave. So it didn't take long after we left.
Especially if you're, in the top 3 spots and you're literally talking about, so people understand this. This is the day 2 average list, right? So you got number 1's 8503 we talked about, 85225 for Dean Anderson in second place, and then a pair of 8554s to round out what would be like to tie for third. Okay. Mm-hmm. So after day 3, you run your perfect numbers. Day 3 average is now 8528 for Dean, 8532 for Matt, and then a pair of 8536s for you guys to hold up third place. I mean, just
yep. So yeah, after day 3, and like Chris said, we really started talking a lot more between us and what was going on, and we saw, unfortunately, Matt started to struggle with the heat, and him and I have chatted since then after the event, kind of about what was going on, and it's like the door just kind of opened for both of us to kind of just figure out what was going on. So we get to Great Lakes, really, like you guys mentioned, really cool track. That thing is neat. And I think first pass, I went it was slow. And I want to say the DA hit 3750 at one point in the day. So, I mean, all of us were having some trouble. And so then, like, my second pass, I went the 566, and Chris had gone the 559. So I knew he had a little edge, but I was like, man, we're at a point where where everything sits, if we all turn our stuff in, like, tomorrow's a shootout. And there was some back and forth on who was going to do what, but I was kind of flipping the table on them. I said, you guys can do what you want. I'll sit back, and if you go make another pass, then if it ain't there, I don't have to do anything. So, there's a lot of little games and back and forth kind of stuff that goes on, which is all part of the fun.
Oh yeah.
So, and that third drive was the longest. I wanted to say earlier in the thing, somebody mentioned about how it was half the drive and stuff, but I'll say this, it was 630, 650, which, the other ones are, 800 to 1,000. So it is a less miles, but it's extremely hot, and there's a lot of hills up and around here. It's definitely not flat Florida land. So plus I think everybody there had their heater on this year. So we're not driving quite as far on this one, but there are definitely some aspects that you may not see otherwise. Now, Rocky Mountain Race Week, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, and think of the swing there in temperature. You're literally racing one morning at 50, and you're racing, and one of the afternoons it had to be in the mid 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
Not track temp, like outside temp, sweat rolling down my butt crack hot.
Yeah, after the third day, I saw a lot of cars with their hoods off, driving down the road. Now, I have my own opinion. I built the car because I did not want to drive the car with the hood off. I think you should full body down the road, but everyone's got their own opinion about it. And at the end of the day, as long as you get there, it is what it is. It's not a rule or anything, but it's kind of a rule for me. We were this close to doing it, but I said, no, we'll make it. So
we hung out 12 degrees. It's fine.
Right. We hung out at the Field of Dreams for a little while. Right. And there was a storm that was about to roll in, so we were kind of just hanging out there, but luckily we got pretty lucky there and it cooled off. So anyways, we go into the final day, and it's on the paper, it's anybody's game. I mean, the four of us anybody could have had it there. And it was still warm. And I think the first pass, I go like a 44.8 or something. I'm like, what happened here? And so we pull it back around, and that's when I went the 5.22, and Chris had gone 5.25 or 5.26, and we're doing the same thing over in our camp, right? We're getting our phones out, and we're like, where's it at? We got to be close. And I'm like, man, I think we're still behind. And so I go do another pass, and it wasn't good. And so I had to come back and let the car cool off. and we're just kind of sitting back waiting for the all run. And like, again, Chris kind of told the story. I see him kind of sitting there, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing back here? Come on, let's give him a show, And so I convinced him to get in line, and we told the guys up front, like, hey, we're gonna run these two cars together. It's silly close, like, let's put on a show. And then I go up there and drop the ball and spin the tires, and talk about a heartbreak. And so 0.0008 is just like stuck right here in my head, and will be giving me nightmares for quite a while. But I mean, to start out the week at a 60, and literally come down to the last pass of the event for our our group is pretty amazing. And hopefully that kind of just tells everybody, like, never give up in these things. Anything can happen with a lot of that. So it's just really neat to see kind of the progression of the class throughout the week. Was crazy. And I think one of the other cars kind of snuck up into fourth. I think it was a Mustang, kind of ended up in fourth because of the Camaro problem. But yeah, what a week. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully the video really tells the story too, because it's pretty cool. Hopefully it gets more people interested even more. Because it's just nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. And again, you go back to, like, that's why I love this class, because it's at any point, it's anybody's game, because Matt Frederick goes into the final day and turns in a 14.8.
Yeah. And I hated to see that, because I wanted all four of us just to be like right there, which is crazy.
Derek just made a good comment. Two things: you finished and you've earned second 2 years in a row. So, I mean, I know you're that close, but those are things to be proud of still as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've done 3 Dragon Drives, 2 national and 1 regional, and I've finished all 3 of them. So that's something to be said about. Yeah. I'm very finicky with my car as far as the details and stuff. So when we had that, transmission heat issue, I'm like, how did I miss this? What's going on? Yeah. And of course, Juddy says, so
doesn't get an
that's Juddy. That's my co-pilot. And the reason it's a little bit tricky is anyone who was watching probably saw my 2 buddies that were with us with the Supra and the Civic, Rob and Damon. They both, there he is. They both have orange helmets. So they were kind of giving me they kind of razzed me a lot. But I mean, to lose by that small of a margin, obviously there's not one sitting behind me or on my head, but dang it. It's so close. We gave it everything. I've played the scenarios back in my head all weekend long. If we had done one little thing different on Monday, but that would have changed what Chris and his team would have done and anyone else. So you can't play that. You got to say,
here's the other thing. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you just got to say we did it and we learned, and now we know what to do next year. So.
Well, right, but dude, what do you do? How do you go 0.008 faster with an average? You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, yes, we're talking about less than a tenth. Because let's say you had won a 58 on Monday, it would have been a 50 with an 8, or a 58. It would have been different. You'd have had the lead. It'd have been, but let's say that would have shortened up your window of passes, and you just spun on the last day because now you burned the tires up, and whatever was causing it to spin on day 5 on that last pass, that would have been your first pass of day 5. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much what if, and even Thursday morning, I'm up at like 7 a.m. doing math, trying to get some stuff to Derek. Like, hey, if this guy runs this, he locks it in, all this kind of stuff, right? And for my own notes. And there's so many what ifs in that class. You almost had to base it off of, well, these guys have already run a perfect pass this week. That's what you have to run it against. So, okay, if Jeremy runs a perfect pass, Chris needs to run at least this to be in the lead. Oh, well, what if Matt does this? What if Dean does this? What if, it's so hard to run any kind of like what if scenario in that 850 class that I just almost I was tired of trying to, if so-and-so does this, it puts them here and that and there and over here and move up one spot, So that class was crazy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we were doing the same thing, right? Because we wanted to figure out where we were, and we knew going into the last day, being right behind Chris, that we just had to go faster than the two guys behind us. But then we had to go a certain number faster than Chris. And technically, if Chris had gone, I don't remember what the number was that we had figured out, but if he had gone a certain number, we technically couldn't catch him, regardless if we went perfect again. So, I mean, we knew all those crunches, you know, the numbers and stuff. But before we left, Juddy and I said to him, I said, look, it's us versus us. And that's how you have to go into that class. Like, yeah, obviously there was 12 other cars in that class, but at the end of the day, it was us versus us. And that's how we just proceeded through the week. And obviously after running, you know, 503, 500, 2 and 3 day, we said, okay, now it's really us versus us, but let's take a look at what everybody else is doing too.
Right. Yeah, I had done a bunch of that math, but it looks like I went back up to the tower at one point and was inputting people's times from round one to see where that put everybody. So I eliminated all of that data.
Yeah, I had it on my phone for sure. So we knew every time. And you know everybody was watching everybody. So
oh yeah. And
it's just so much. It's so much fun.
Well, and what's so strange, and it may be different at Streetcar Takeover, but a lot of the races I've been to, if it gets to that kind of time, people aren't talking to each other. They're not. They're like, stay away from me. You can't see my screen. Don't show anybody, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's awesome that the Drag and Drive community is willing to basically go up and run side by side to determine the winner. You know, you guys were that close.
Yeah, that's what I really was hoping would have happened. Like I said, unfortunately we spun, but I told Chris, I said, look, let's just run them. And if we had both made a pass, him and I wouldn't have known until we came back around who won. So that was kind of like the cool thing for me, because it was like whoever can go faster, you know, than that number we had is it. So you know, I try to give the fans a little show there. Again, drop the ball, and that kind of haunts me too. But yeah, you can't live on that. You got to learn from it and keep going, which is what we're gonna do. But and the other thing I will say is I am ecstatic, and I hope they keep doing it. Is they had made the call. I don't remember if it was Thursday. It was probably Friday actually. They told everybody, like, don't come to the lanes until we call you. If you come up to these lanes before we call your class, you're going last. And that was a great call, because it really just helped everybody. Unfortunately, my buddy Rob didn't make it through to the first round when he was kicking butt to try to fix the starter issue. And so I don't know, Derek, I don't know if you have some sway on that, but try to push that. I think that should be a standard from now on, because that's part of the little bit of the game that we had seen last year and kind of unfortunately had to get involved in, and hopefully that kind of takes that away. But anyways, not to take away from it. Awesome. I can't even say enough about it. Yeah. Do I want that orange helmet? For sure, but we'll try again, and you never know. The tough part is we put it all in there. So to have to go back and try to do that again is going to be tough, but that's what we do.
Here's the thing. We're what, 4 days removed, 5 days removed from the event. In another 5 days, you'll be like, man, I'm ready to go again. So that leads me into what's the next Drag and Drive event for you, and what's the next events for you?
Yeah. So, well, funny enough, Juddy and I are going back and forth right now. Apparently there's an import versus domestic up there in Chris's neck of the woods. It's got an 850 class that we're thinking about it, but I might take some time off. I do have Streetcar Takeover Indy in a few weeks. And then we've got one in Edgewater. Of course, I'll be going to LS Fest, and then plan to do the Nostalgia Nights. Again, yeah, see, Jay knows. We'll see if I show up.
The reason Jay's asking is because he's going to be there.
Yeah, I think they won. I'm pretty sure they won last year. So all those guys up there, you know, I gotta drive up there. It'd be a lot easier if it was down here. But yeah, we'll do Nostalgia Nights. Man, I'd love to go down to Sick Week. Getting vacation to do these longer ones is tough. You know, I do want to point out, I do like the regional ones. You know, I think sometimes they're not seen as big of a deal, but they're a great feeder event, and it's a lot easier for people who work, you know, to take just a Friday off or something, you know, or whatever.
Well, and listen, here's the deal. And there was a lot of years of my life where I didn't take a vacation at all. I didn't travel. I didn't go anywhere. I worked 52 weeks a year, 5 or 6 days a week, right? So if you go to your spouse and you say, hey, the vacation I'm going to take this year is to go race my car, they're going to strangle the shit out of you. Like, so for a lot of guys, the regional event is the way to get in and see how much fun it is, and then go, you know what? Why am I working this hard all the time? I'm going to take my family on vacation, and then I'm going to go do a regional event. You know, it gives them that easy foot in the door. And with the level of promoters that are coming into regional events, I think we're going to see that will become a new big thing.
Yeah, it's great. And the tricky part is I want to go to all of them that I can.
Oh, yeah.
But on that same point, like you said, Mike, huge shout out to my wife. She was with our son the whole week, and she puts up with all my racing that I do all the time. So I have to give her a huge shout. And yeah, Derek, I'd love to come down there. I will have a newly 3-month-old by then, so that might be tricky. But one of these days I'll get down there. But yeah, who knows? Get you boys up there in Michigan. I might show up this weekend. I haven't decided yet, but if not, we'll see some of you guys. We'll see some of you guys in Indy, which is a much easier drive for me. I actually thought about showing up to Streetcar Takeover with just a little mini trailer and driving there. So
how much fun would that be, man? That's what I love. And we're starting to see that at these events, like Derek was talking about the SIG exhibition or shootout that they're running at the NMRA or NMC, whatever those letters that is. I love seeing that. I love that it's becoming an option because, man, we're introducing it to so many more people.
100%. Yeah. And all that stuff that they're getting involved in those extra events is really cool to see. I mean, the explosion of the whole thing is just crazy in the last few years. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah, bring it on, man. Yeah,
Nice.
David said we'll have the drag and drive trailer at 131. That's I think that's one of the funnest things. So, team hybrid racing. I want to talk about YouTube for a minute. How hard it is.
Yeah.
Editing videos. And we're probably gonna lose some folks over this, but editing videos is one of the hardest things about having a YouTube channel. And dude, how many hours do you think you'll spend on the 2 videos you'll put out from Six Summer?
Yeah, it's tough to. I mean, I probably already have, a couple hours each night into the first one. The first one's done. I'm not sure when I'm going to put it out yet. I want to get a little further into the second one, but yeah, it's a lot. I was actually going to do a video of just me talking, like just sitting here like this, because I don't really do a lot of that. Kind of a year review of an automotive YouTube channel. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing as far as like taking video and editing and stuff, but I've learned a lot over the last year. And it's also interesting. I watch a lot of other people's channels to learn things of kind of what they're doing and the techniques and thinking about that. But the interesting thing to me is kind of how it changes over the years. So when you first start, you don't know what you're doing. You think you know what you're doing, and you think it's the best thing you've ever put out, and it's probably not. So you're kind of on this level, and then you start to take off, and you're like, maybe you buy a nice camera or something, you learn how to edit better, and your video is really good. And then you get this mass following, and then you can just kind of ride that wave, I feel like, and kind of just put out, not anything, but like you can just be more entertaining and be just you, and people want to watch that. Where I feel like in the beginning, you kind of have to really cater a bit more, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that somebody isn't trying, because they put in the time, they put in the hours, and they totally deserve it. And hey, that's where we all want to be, is at that point right there. But it's a lot of work. You go out to the garage, and I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to go work on something for a half an hour. And we already know under normal circumstances, that half an hour is 2 hours. She learned that very early on. I said, whatever I tell you, multiply it by 3 or 4, because that's what it's going to be. But then you add setting up a camera, making sure you got the shot, adding that. Now what was a half an hour became 2 hours, was 2 hours, and now is 3 or 4 hours. And then you got to come back in and edit it for 3 or 4 hours. And then
which means you're not wrenching in the car.
Exactly. So
don't even get started on thumbnails.
I spend way too much time going back and forth on that stuff.
That's what I struggle with, because sometimes I just want to go out and do this one quick thing, and I know I should record it, but I'm like, man, I ended up, you seen my post and we talked, I tore my engine apart, wasn't planning on it, and I recorded none of it now. So now when I do my next video, I have to start with, here's what I already did that I didn't record, and now here's what I'm going to do. But I got to say, I mean, your videos are good. I really like them. You did one with with the J's. I forget what that piece is. The
Oh yeah, the
that goes in the
bypass,
water.
the
Yeah,
the thermostat
and
bypass. Yeah.
and that was cool because you and I must have ordered them right about the same time. You got yours and put it in, and so I watched it, and I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to do a video because I was gonna do a video, but like
You're
you
just sharing
explained it.
his.
Yeah, you explained it so well, and you went through step by step that I was like, I just went out and did mine. I didn't record any of
Yeah.
it, and so that was a good video. And I think your videos are great. So keep up what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely tough when you think you've nailed it and then it just doesn't like go anywhere. And then you've got this one-off video that I did some random stuff in the winter, and like those videos are just going. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what am I doing here? So then you're like,
you just put out content and don't worry about who's watching it. That's the only
right.
Dude. Thousands of videos, more
Yeah.
than 2,000 videos I've recorded and edited and posted.
It's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, I had a goal like 1 year, try to do one every week. I missed a couple during the holidays, but I met that goal and are about to hit 1,000 subscribers, which is pretty cool. It doesn't seem like much when you see some of the other big auto channels, but anyone else who's in it that tells me, they're like, if you can hit 1,000 like in the first year like that, you're doing something. So
it took me 2 years.
Yeah.
I hit it right before my 2 years.
Last I checked, we're sitting like 850 or something. So anyone who's watching, if you want to jump over there, Team Hybrid Racing, I'd appreciate the follow, and we'll keep knocking out videos, and hopefully I'm excited about the 6 summer one. So
we'll bring it
on.
You're
not posting shorts or anything either, right? You're doing strictly long form videos.
I've done some in the beginning. I pushed a lot more, and then now it's just the editing of the long videos just takes so long. It's like, and also for just Juddy and I to just try to film stuff while doing 6 summer. Like when you guys see how much footage we got, just the two of us, while also competing at this crazy level of 850, it's kind of like the whole time I was like, I wish I had a media person following us around. But it's working. I'm hoping there's not too many gaps in the story, but it's coming together. Maybe I'll just drop the first one tomorrow because I'm excited about it.
Listen, we're ready, and it's going to make you work hard to get the second one out because you want to get that. Yeah,
exactly.
So, 100%. And you got to do it while 6 summer's hot, man. So
you have to for sure.
It's intense. All right, well, dude, thank you so much, Aaron, for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it. Love the story, love the car, love just watching that car go down. It looks great, it drives great. Man, I need to get in that thing at one time and just ride along with you for a checkpoint or something.
Yeah. For sure. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. It's I love talking about cars, and I could talk till I run out of breath.
Well, for sure.
Hey, listen, at some point in the future, we're going to do an after hours couple episodes, and we're just going to let people just go. So, but that's not tonight. We're already way over for tonight. So thanks everybody that's hanging out. But thanks again. I appreciate you coming on, and we got to close this thing out.
Thanks, guys.
If you guys want to stay in the back, and we'll bring you guys on after we close the show out because I got another few minutes, and then we can kind of have a roundtable discussion. Not for the folks that are watching this live because we're not going to do that. But all right, Mr. Eric, dude, lead us out of this thing, man. Talk about a fun night. We hadn't gone 2.5 hours in a long time.
No, but I kind of had a feeling with everything that we were covering, the week that we had. I saw Alex from Driven Racing Oil was in here talking about the 240, nice. So that was cool. Yeah, I had a feeling that tonight was going to go a little bit long just because we had so much to talk about. We had a busy week. I mean, you came over, stayed the night at the house, crashed here for the night, and got up and drove home. And it was a fun week. And I, again, wish we could do it so much more. Like, it's so much fun hanging out with everybody.
Yeah. And we can. You know how we can make that possible? Our race car friends.
Yes.
If you guys will hit that share button, please. I know we're ending the show, but listen, folks got to know you've been over here watching this. We cannot do this without you guys. And your support means, I'm telling you, I know I say it all the time. And you're probably tired of hearing it. But listen, your support means a bunch to us. We're literally two dudes that live 10 hours apart that live and breathe drag and drive. It's all we do. It's all we talk about. It's all we follow, except for a little bit of Midwest Drag Race Series Pro Mod stuff for me. But listen, I'm telling you, Drag and Drive is my life. Drag and Drive is Eric's life. It's what happens. So thank you for being our race car friends. Thank you so much for all the stuff you guys do for us out there. We appreciate that. And
Yeah, comments have been nuts tonight. So
oh yeah,
that's incredible.
I hadn't even looked at I haven't pulled anything up in a long time. It's 107. So thank you so much for everybody that's made comments. Thanks to Eric for running that. Everybody give him a big round of applause because he runs that and watches the notes and asks questions and does the ad reads and all that kind of stuff. So he's the man. Thank you to our sponsors for making all of this possible. Summit Racing, Driven Racing Oil, Molly Motorsports, Car Change 3D, WAF Racing, Performer Built Transmissions, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, Power Tube TV, and Racing Junk Classifieds. You all make it the whole world go round for us, and we appreciate it. And I'm hitting in now. Thank you guys. We'll see you soon.
See ya.